going to stop there, and I'm going to call the meeting to order because enough time has gone by. The meeting actually started at 8 a.m. This past Tuesday when we opened the polls. We then went away at 7 p.m. We closed the polls, and we are reconvening here at 9 a.m. approximately, actually 9:08 on Saturday to complete the rest of the warrant. The first articles on the warrant were the votes for the elected officials and for the other items on the two ballots. And so we are reconvening, and I hereby declare the meeting to be open. Hopefully I won't need the gavel very often during the course of this meeting. If you take a moment, and if people in line, I appreciate you keeping as quiet as possible. I'd ask you to join me in looking at the opening page in your book, where we remember people who've made a significant impact over the years in our community. I don't have a lot to add to what's here for Carolyn and Lou Buzzle, except that two of the nicest, kindest, gentlest, warmest people who were always ready to volunteer and contribute to our community. And if you'd all join me in a moment of silence in memory of them. Thank you all. I'm going to ask you now to stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And I'm going to turn to my left and ask Sharon Schilling, who is the chair of the Advisory Budget Committee, to introduce her team.
Oh, it's already on. Good morning, everyone. As George said, I'm Sharon Schilling. I'm the chair of the Advisory Budget Committee. To my left is Joe Dame, who is currently the vice chairman, but now selectman-elect. Right? In between jobs. To his left is Doug McAllister, our third member. We did have other members, however, we're in the process of sorting out some positions. And anybody who is interested in the ABC, please let us know that you'd like to be on the ABC.
Thank you. And if Adam Price, you get to introduce the entire crew to my other side.
All right, I'm Adam Price, Chairman of the Board of Selectmen. To my left, we have Michael Brooks, Town Clerk. To my right, Land Use Administrator and Administrative Assistant Kate Young. Next to her, Attorney Chris Bolt. To his right, Selectman Jim Eldridge, then Selectman Jake Bowie, Selectman Joy Gray, and Selectman Nicole Nordland.
Thank you. And I'm going to take a minute personally to thank our former town administrator, Linda Shackford. She provided us and me with accurate and complete and timely information that made these meetings run better for a bunch of years, and to provide us with the information we need to make the best possible decisions. I will personally miss Linda, and I want to make a point of thanking her for her years of service. And feel free to join me if you would. If you take a look at page 11, what you will see are the rules in your book here of town and school meeting. And we have the opportunity to really stress one particular point that's in there. Please feel free to read it over. Remember, 2 minutes is truly your limit. And I'll tell you why there's one exception to that, to speaking. But the important thing to know about the rules of the meeting is that while these are mine, you can overrule me and change these rules at any time during the course of the meeting. Simply say, go to the microphone and say point of order, and I will listen to you, and you can make a motion to say the moderator wants us to do it this way, but I don't want to do it this way, I'd like to do it differently, and then we will vote and see whether you overrule me and wish to do it your way. That's absolutely fine, and it is your meeting, you are in control of it. These are the rules until such time as you do overrule them, though. And we are about to start on the warrant, and I know that someone wants to make a motion, and it is, go ahead.
Good morning.
You are?
John Arruda from North Division Road and the transfer station. Spend more time there. I'd like to make a motion to move Article 24 to our first article, placed before Article number 5.
Thank you. Is there a second to Mr. Arruda's motion? And we have many people seconding that. You can't talk about it. Because it's a point of order, and so you don't debate a point of order. We simply are going to vote on whether we want to consider Article 24 for the others. But I am free to make a couple of comments. One is, as moderator, I'm going to point out to you that the warrant, this document that lists all the things we're going to consider today, is meant to warn the town of what's going to happen here at town meeting. And by changing the order, we're changing what people expected, what they were warned. And Article 24 won't be in the 24th position as a result if this change occurs. And generally, I discourage the town from changing the order of the articles. In this particular case, there are reasons why people would like to consider this article prior to the operating budget. And so it's fine. You can do it. It's perfectly legal, and it may well be the wise thing to do. But that's for you to decide. Do we want to consider Article 24 before we consider any of the other articles? That's the motion that's on the floor. Does anyone have any questions about that? We're not going to debate it, but we're going to have questions. Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor?
Point of order, Mr.
Yes.
Do we have a second?
Yes.
Mr. Bond's in the front.
Okay. I'm sorry, we didn't get it down on the...
Attorney Bolt, don't mess with me. Thank you.
Strive valiantly not to...
Okay. If I am doing something wrong, let me know. And I will comment on that. But no, thank you. So we're ready to vote. All those in favor of moving Article 24...
Mr. Moderator, point of order?
Yes.
Hi, could we explain the impact of moving it up, or could we speak to that?
I don't know.
Okay.
What's your question?
Well, I guess I just want to make sure that folks know that by moving this up, if it is voted down, no means no, and that there will be no investigation, or there will be no funding for an investigation. So I just want to make sure.
Okay, so that's all incorrect. We're not going to debate this. So
Okay, I just wanted to...
The vote that we're going to have is whether we wish to consider Article 24 prior to the other articles, okay? All of those in favor of moving Article 24 up to be the very first one we consider, please raise your hand with your ballot in your hand, so I know that you are a registered voter. Thank you. All those opposed to moving it up? Appears the ayes have it, and so we will now consider Article 24 in your books. Thank you. We can discuss things like the issue of no means no, which is an interesting topic to discuss. And anything else we want to discuss with regard to Article 24. Selectman Price puts it on the floor. Is there a second to Mr. Price's article?
I need a second to put I motion to put Article 24 on the floor. I need a second.
We need, okay.
Just from one of you guys. Second from
Okay.
Jake.
So Mr. Bowie is seconding Article 24. And Article 24 says, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $8,000 for the purpose of an independent investigation into personal use of town property. Recommended by the Selectmen, 500, not recommended by the Advisory Budget Committee, 211. As a general rule, we let the people who make a motion speak to it first. And so I'm going to turn to members of the Select Board to see if they would like to speak to this article first, but they don't have to. And I can turn to the Budget Committee, and I can turn to the person at the microphone. Would you like to speak to Article 24, Mr. Arruda?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Please give him your full attention.
They have in the past, thank you. This is a violation of policy at worst. The policy has been in place, either written or known, for a number of years, going back to when we had the days of the road agent. And he would take a vehicle home, and that caused a brouhaha, and we decided that it was in the town's best behalf to let him do it. Things have gone over the years. There's nothing to be gained here. We've lost a couple of people already. I hope we don't lose any more. We have already changed the policy that was in place to a new written policy that was just issued last week. This has been going on for a couple of months, and I hear a lot. I see more taxpayers in my job for the town than probably anyone else. And I've heard some of the craziest things, that the highway department is going to get arrested, and it's just been festering. A meeting with the employees by the Board of Selectmen would do far more than raising $8,000 and having an investigation which leads a person to believe that there's some thievery going on. And to my knowledge, I've never seen it in my 25 years of working for this town. I don't want to waste $8,000 on something the Board of Selectmen could be doing. Last year, we went from 3 selectmen to 5 selectmen. Well, there's certainly plenty of selectmen to handle the issue we have with our highway department. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments or questions?
Mr. Moderator,
Yes,
could I speak?
please.
So this was never a policy to allow this. It was a practice. And it was a practice that the little bit of information that has come out of it is that it was more a practice of the officials than it was of the employees. No DPW employee, no employee in town would be fired for personal use at that point, at this point.
Thank you.
How much? I guess. Sorry, I just want to finish really quickly. As John mentioned, this current revealing of information has been going on for 5 months. We don't know what risks we've been put in legally, insurance liability-wise, because after 5 months, ask yourselves, how much more do you know in 5 months? Chances are you know as little as we do. And what little we know is that it was more officials acting, approving, and taking advantage of than it was any employee.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Jake Martin, Hedgehog Hill Road, and town employee. Mr. Moderator, if I can ask the Board of Selectmen for maybe a concise list of merits to the investigation to clear the air of any rumors that, like Mr. Arruda said.
So you're asking why they think it is a good idea?
The
What benefits?
basis on the record why they believe an investigation is needed.
You can ask, and they have the option to answer. I can't ever make anybody answer anything. So would anybody like to, since it is a selectman's article, anyone like to speak as to why this is a good idea?
The merits to it are that we still don't know what risks we've been put in for behavior, for this practice. And I feel like we as a board and we as officials have demonstrated that we don't know what we're doing. The fact that we have 5 months in on this particular subject and still know nothing, still have no clear path. And if we used a third party, that would allow an objective look at this and would allow us to understand what has happened. No names will ever be released as to what happened. No employee name would ever be released. But it would provide us a clear path and direction as to, these are all your risks. These are all the liabilities. This is the situation you've put yourself in. This is the situation you will continue to be in if you don't walk down this, if you don't do this, if you don't train employees, if they don't understand this. It's closing a gap and making sure that we understand what happened so we never do it again, and that we understand it from professionals who do this as their job.
Thank you. You have a follow-up?
Does Mr.
I'm
President?
just going to speak to that real quick, if I
Sorry,
can,
please.
Mr. Moderator. The clear path has already been put forward. We adopted a policy that this is not happening anymore. We can't go back and, there's no reason to go back and look at liability because we're no longer liable for those things. We have adopted a policy that town employees don't use property for personal use, and in my opinion, that should be the end of the story.
Thank you.
So in Selectman Gray's own words, it's more officials than the town employees. Then I don't know why town employees need to be subject to investigation. But on another note, the board's handling of this entire situation has created an air of mistrust and dissent within the town employees at every file, every rank and file, that I haven't seen in my 10 years here. So just be aware of that.
Yeah, could I make another point?
Thank you. Other speakers, please feel free to stand in line. And just to note that there are a bunch of seats up front here for those of you who want to be up front, closer to the celebrities. Go ahead.
Charles Allen, I think if I had 5 months on the Board of Selectmen, I'd know exactly what was going on. I wouldn't need $8,000 to find out.
Thank you.
And so I think,
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Are there any other speakers? Generally, we want people who've not yet spoken to have the opportunity to speak first, and then we can make second rounds as needed. Yes?
Yeah, Mike Vayu. My quick question is, I thought it was decided at a Board of Selectmen meeting that you would, in fact, go forward with the investigation, and then all of a sudden it became no longer that, but a warrant article. I'd just like clarification on that, please.
If I may, Mr. Moderator,
ahead.
I think I can
Yeah.
answer. So, in fact, there were two different decisions made, one prior to the other. We made a decision in non-public to have the local police department, in a 4-0 vote in a non-public meeting, not investigate, but interview and try to get the facts together for us. At the very next public meeting, a few members rescinded that vote and tried to push forward an investigation. After dealing with taxpayers and listening to their concerns, I felt it best to put it on the warrant as its own warrant article.
Thank you.
Okay. Todd Milliken, Plains Road. I'm really glad to see this start out so gently and collegially.
It's because of me.
I think that's likely true. And so just some opening remarks. Today we need to decide whether to look back or not to look back. I agree with what Adam just said. The future seems to be taken care of. So many voters want to look back to find out how we got here in regard to this somewhat divisive issue. Many voters don't want to look back because the potential benefits are not worth the costs to goodwill. So I respect both of those positions and feel like I've talked with people in both of those positions. So for me personally, this led me to the conclusion that it needs to be done in a way that fosters looking back. If we decide to look back, it needs to be done in a way that fosters goodwill or not done at all. And so in reaching that personal conclusion, I did write, I have a motion to replace the article with other wording if that's something people want to entertain.
Are you moving an amendment to Article 24?
I would like to put something on the floor that I think is the option of looking back in a way that fosters goodwill, and that's the main obstacle to looking back. I think it's a motion that respects both sides of the issue. So Mr. Moderator, I make a motion to replace Article 24 with the following. This legislative body assigns a 3-person review and report committee to review and report on policies, practices, and activities regarding the non-public use of public assets. Excuse me. The report will become a public document to be released on or before September 14th, 6 months from today. The Review and Report Committee will be made up of 3 Madison voters, Stuart Lord, Nancy Martin, and Todd Milliken. This Review and Report Committee will automatically dissolve at the end of next year's town meeting.
Do I have a second?
Mr. Moderator, point of order.
Yes.
Mark Font, Scow Hill Road. That completely negates the article. I'm in favor of another article similar to that, but that completely negates the effect of the article, and can that be done without warrant to the town?
So it's a judgment call as to whether the topic of the amendment is sufficiently different and a different function from the original article as to be invalid. And my judgment is no, that's not sufficiently different. In other words, it is a valid amendment to make to replace the wording of an investigation for $8,000 with a review and report by local citizens that doesn't have a dollar amount.
I'm going to second this motion.
So we have the second from that gentleman. Thank you. Good question. And it raises fascinating issues about it. The amendment doesn't have dollars in it. That means the DRA would be less involved in the whole thing, Department of Revenue Administration and all the rest of it. I feel very comfortable. If the attorney wants to shout out and interrupt me and say, "You're wrong, George," he should feel free to do so, but I'm going to accept the amendment and your second. Thank you. So I'm going to read it again. You have in your book the article that's on the floor. That article would be replaced by the following wording. The legislative body assigns a 3-person review and report committee to review and report on policies, practices, and activities regarding the non-public use of public assets. The report will become a public document to be released on or before September 14th, 2026. The Review and Report Committee will be made up of 3 Madison voters, Stuart Lord, Nancy Martin, Todd Milliken. This Review and Report Committee will automatically dissolve at the end of next year's town meeting. And so that's the amendment we're considering. And if we were to vote right now, which we're not, we have people who are going to speak, we would be voting whether to eliminate the wording that's in your book and replace it with this wording. Okay, so we're now going to talk about that. Yes?
We're talking about the amendment?
We're talking about the amendment, but you know, they blur together enough, so feel free to
But the amendment
talk.
has no money, correct?
The amendment has
Sorry,
no
Cheryl
money.
Brooks.
That's correct.
The other question I had is on the investigation, if we went with the original article.
Yes.
That investigation is on everything that happened in the past, doesn't have anything to do with any present or other misappropriations or misdoings, rumors, all that crap.
If you look at Article 24, there's no particular tense, past tense focus. So
Okay.
I don't see that it would be particularly limited in any way.
Okay, so this investigation could bring in a whole bunches of stuff if they ask someone the right question and get the right answer. It could go down another avenue?
You mean like Whitewater?
No,
No, I'm
Maybe.
I'm sorry. Yeah,
Maybe.
no,
I
that's,
don't know.
I guess, the point.
I just don't want to see $8,000 turn into 20.
Well, you would be limited to the $8,000 in a warrant article, so
Right.
they wouldn't be able to overextend that.
I just don't want to come back next year saying, oh, we found X, Y, and Z, so we need to investigate more.
All I could say is the wording in the book suggests to me that it would be limited to $8,000 and it would be limited to looking into the personal use of town property. Those are the 2 things that are spelled out in Article 24.
Okay. So the only theft would be theft of services.
The personal use of town property, so I don't know if...
Well, I've heard it referred to as that's a theft of service, so I just want to make sure that's what we're talking about.
I'm sorry, say that again? I don't see that any particular town employees would be, or actions would be
It's just been
not
referred
looked
to
at.
in the past as it's stealing from the town, so I'm just making sure that that's what we're talking about.
Well, we're talking about the personal use of town property.
That being said, I like his amendment.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. That was simple. Yes, sir.
Theodore Gray, East Madison Road. I'd just like to speak to why I don't believe a citizen committee would work when it comes to an investigation.
You are a voter.
Yes, I am.
Sorry, just. I couldn't help. Well, you weren't carrying your thing and all that. So, but for the entire audience, this is an 18,
I'm
right?
18 years old.
Yeah.
I voted in this election.
You did. I know that. I'm making sure everybody knew. I was looking at
All right,
how suspicious our audience was. Go ahead, please. I'm sorry for interrupting you.
I'd just like to speak to why I don't believe a citizen committee would work in conducting this investigation, where no matter how well-intentioned the citizens are, they're not legal professionals, and that opens us up to confidentiality risks. They're not going to have only information on what names to disclose, what names not to disclose, and former officials, when talking to, inevitably, this is a small town. Everyone knows everyone. So former officials talking to other members of the town don't really have as powerful of an incentive to participate if they are guilty of something, or to be honest.
Thank you.
A quick point of order before I speak.
Introduce yourself.
Jim Hayford, Chief of Police, Ospey resident. If I could
And
get-
I am authorizing him to speak. If anyone objects, you can make a point of order and say, as a non-Madison voter, we don't want him to speak, and beware if you do that.
Point of order, Mr. Moderator.
Yes,
Is he speaking as a
he's speaking, and we don't categorize that. That's a good question, but we don't ask people, am I speaking as a taxpayer, or as a voter, as a whatever. So please proceed.
So, to Mr. Milliken's amended motion, like Mr. Gray said, I do have an issue as far as from an investigatory perspective, having plain citizens investigate the quality. Not that they're not qualified or unqualified, but I think the quality we would expect it should be directly from the Board of Selectmen or some other entity. Confidentiality is an issue, I think, for town employees. I don't want my information out to any citizen who has no training whatsoever to keep my information confidential. My records with the town, I think, should be private to the upstairs office of the Select Board.
Thank you. Again, as a general rule, you're going to respond specifically to those issues?
I think what I failed
Because
to...
we want people who've not yet spoken to have the opportunity to speak first.
Right, but one of the other things you taught me is the person that makes the motion has 2 minutes to talk to the motion.
At the time, and you've used your first opportunity, you
No.
don't have the opportunity to
No,
come back whenever
no.
you want to fill the 2 minutes.
I made comments on Article 24, and then I made a motion, and these are the discussion points to the motion. It's about no blame and no name. Why look back at all? Again, that was our entire premise. It's for healing and learning, improving practices, potentially even more so than the selectmen's changes have already made to town rules, and alleviate concerns. Sometimes when people don't know if there's a substantive problem, their imaginations take over. Will names be included in the report? No. The intention of the report to form this review and report committee does not include any intention of any names, because the cost to goodwill is not worth the potential benefit. Because, and to the chief's comments, and it begins here today, because the committee's work will be easier and more constructive if the committee is able to be clear with everyone they talk to that no names will be included in the report. And lastly, because not including names seems like the right thing to do.
Thank you. Do you mind sitting up here in case other questions are aimed directly to you?
Morning, Mr. Chairman. Sean Bergeron, Forest Pines Road. Excuse me, Mr. Moderator. Mr. Moderator, are we only speaking to the amendment this time, at this moment?
We're really talking about both of the articles because we're basically choosing between those two sets of language. So feel free to ask questions about either.
Thank you. I don't think I really have any questions. I'd just like to make a point. An hour ago, I probably would have voted in support of Article 24. When we look at how it was recommended unanimously by the Board of Selectmen. It wasn't recommended by the Advisory Budget Committee. But when I hear the rationale why the Board of Selectmen would like to go down this path, the only word I heard was liability. I heard that the Board of Selectmen has now set a new policy, apparently a policy that everybody is comfortable with, where we will go with this into the future. I don't see that there's anything positive to gain by spending any time with any committee going after this review. If we're talking about liability that may have occurred by the use of town equipment, if that's the case, 5 months ago, chances are, if nothing bad has happened by now, I'm going to accept that liability risk. I think there's a stronger likelihood, as I said, I would have voted for this an hour ago, but if all we're going after is the liability question, there's a stronger likelihood that we're going to go down a rabbit hole and we're going to find something uglier than a rabbit at the bottom that we don't want to deal with. Let's not tear Madison apart for $8,000 or something that happened 5 months ago. This just seems like a waste of time. Todd, good idea, but I don't like it.
Thank you.
Hello, Sherry. My question is, if the voters vote to spend this $8,000, do current and past employees have to comply with the investigation?
Does anybody want to comment on that?
I have a suspicion they don't.
That is correct, in my opinion. I don't know a way of forcing, short of a lawsuit, being subpoenaed and you're put in front of a judge.
Okay, so I think we should save our $8,000.
Thank you. Behind you, Mr. Gray, again, we want people who have not yet spoken to have the opportunity to speak first, and then people can speak a second time. Go ahead, please.
Deb Parsons. Just listening to the conversation, one, I have a question. What kind of authority would the investigative body, whether it's civilian taxpayers or a company that's third party, have with respect to results of an investigation?
Not aware of any particular authority. Attorney, is there any authority you would refer to?
So I've heard things from people at the mic like theft of services, things that would involve legal things, perhaps violation of laws, so there could be consequences to that. I want to know what's the authority of anybody who does an investigation over individuals that might be found to have violated some kind of use of town property without authorization.
So I can, go ahead.
In short, an investigation, whether it's in-house or, pardon the phrase, outhouse, you have a scope of that investigation. Here, your warrant is to investigate the use of town property for personal use. That's the scope. Whoever is investigating it is going to look at town records, interview people that are willing to be interviewed, and come up with their recommendations, findings, both what is the past and going forward. If there is for want of a better word, a criminal violation, a theft of something, we as towns do not prosecute thefts. That is the county attorney. And that's through the criminal process of the Superior Court or the District Court, depending upon the level of the amount. So I think I've answered your question, but I'm not sure you think I've answered your question.
No, I believe you answered my question. I'm trying to make the point that this is not a legal enforcement of anything. It's an investigation. So if something were to come to light in an investigation that would have those implications, some other body would then decide what to do with that information. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so as a taxpayer, I know that doesn't count as my 2 minutes.
No,
That's
no,
it.
you're
Okay,
okay.
good. As a taxpayer, and this is my personal belief, I believe this practice has been systemic. So it is not, it's coming to light now, but I believe it's been a practice for a very long time. And as a person who's watched meetings where selectmen have been asked point blank specific things about what has been used, new things keep coming to light. So I, as a taxpayer, want to know how my dollars have been used. And you might all think that the policy takes care of what has been happening, but if we don't know the extent to what has been happening, we can't fix it. So I think $8,000 is an investment that we can then move on from this and don't have to. I mean, if you have people talking about theft of services and various things, let's put that to bed so that people can stop talking about it.
Thank you. Thank you. No, go ahead.
I don't know if this is on. I'll just try. Okay. A couple of points. I agree with Chief Hayford fully. I think that the professionalism has to be there. I have grave concerns about putting our employees in any type of situation where they're going to just talk to a layman about. I appreciate the sentiment, believe me, I do. I don't want to spend the $8,000 at all. However, my concern as a selectman is the precedent it sets if we don't do anything. If any one of you, or 12 of you, or 24 of you, or 50 of you came to any one of us or the entire board with a concern about something going on in town, I really feel strongly it's not our job to do nothing about it. My role as a selectman is to always be helping and answering your concerns. And we have had 31 letters and over 40 or 50 people show up meeting after meeting wanting answers. And I don't think it's right to just ignore it. Believe me, nobody wants to not spend money more than me. But I've made that really clear. I don't want to spend money in any way by the government at all. So I just want to put it out there, the precedent it sets and how you might feel if you came to us with another concern and we did nothing. That's my concern.
Thank you. Mr. Dempster? Mr. Gray, would you sit next to Mr. Milliken in the penalty box over here? And I will make sure you and he will have the opportunity to speak. Mr. Dempster?
Yeah, hi, Bill Dempster. Nicole brought up a couple points that I was going to bring up, but I wanted to say that there's been discussions here and comments made about the employees, which I agree, that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. But the concern is, that I have, is of the taxpayers and the morale of the taxpayers. I've sat in on several select meetings in the past couple of months, and the word has come up multiple times of mistrust. And I think a third-party investigation would do a lot to bring trust back in the executive board of this town. And that's why I'm for an investigation, and $8,000, in my opinion, is well worth it, and other people in town have given reasons why, and I agree with those reasons. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Christine Taylor, Beach Road. I guess.
A little bit closer to there. You can point it downward, yeah.
Christine Taylor, Beach Road. Looking at the article, there's no limitation to time frame, and I'm wondering why you didn't put a time frame in it, because once you start investigating use of property inappropriately, you could go really far back. So I'm wondering why you did not say it was for the last 8 months or the past year, as opposed to just an open end.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to respond to that? Don't have to, but you could. Please. Yes.
The first kind of known use of it, I guess, was about 3 years ago, so it could be capped at 3 years. But that would be a decision that would, have to be made, and I feel like, the town would need to have their input.
Why didn't that be put on the article like a time frame?
I don't know, Selectman Price put it as an article, so that might be a question he could answer.
It's not a question I can answer. I just didn't have a time frame in mind. My intention when I made the article was just to move it from the budget and allow the people to vote for it separately. I didn't think of a time frame at that point, but you do make a good point that we need to put one on it.
Thank you. So let's go with Mr. Gray, Mr. Milliken, and then Mr. Martin, if that's okay.
I'm honored you know my name.
You're in it now. Yeah, I know your name. Go ahead.
I just have a question about, it's 3 citizens that would be on the committee, right?
As proposed.
As proposed, 3 citizens. How are we going to reliably find 3 citizens in this small town that don't have any conflicts of interest, don't have any preconceived biases, and can accurately give us the answer as to what happened?
Thank you. Mr. Milliken, go ahead.
That's for me to answer?
I wanted to answer the
authority. There are 2 separate issues. One is the opportunity to answer questions about an amendment you put on the floor, and as Selectman Gray and others have responded, Selectman Price, generally I'm going to give you the opportunity to respond to a question directed to you. And that's different from getting up and making an additional case, an argument, without letting other people have the opportunity to speak first. So if you could respond to that, but you're in line, so go ahead, make your comment.
Well, so to Deb's question about authority, this legislative body is making the decision today. The buck stops here. And so if you vote for this, I think, more collegial path of looking back, the authority comes there, and it's really about goodwill and trust and building momentum that we're going to do this together. And if we can't do it well, if we can't do it good, all 3 of us agreed that we aren't going to do it at all. And then how do we find 3 uninvested citizens? Well, to a certain extent, you don't want to. We're all invested in the community. And the people I'm talking with and the people who have volunteered to join me in this difficult task have one goal, and that is to mend fences and maintain goodwill. And so if the legislative body authorizes us to do this in a good way, then everyone we talk to comes in and we're like, let's find out. We don't know where it will lead. I don't have expectations of finding nefarious activities. Theft, I don't have any expectation of that. I have an expectation we might be able to do something good to represent that large group of our neighbors who think we should look back. But I repeat, if we decide not to look back at all, I'm fine with that, like Sean said. But if you're going to look back, let's do it in a collegial, community-oriented way.
And just to note that you are the town of Madison. You are a legislative body. Each of you is your own legislator. You're not here as the representative of anyone except yourself. And it is the authority of this town that would be acting on either of these articles. It would be your authority that body would have.
I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator. Could I make a clarification as to what I meant there?
Yes.
You used the word uninvested, I believe. I'm not talking about uninvested citizens. Of course, we should have invested citizens running this. I'm just worried about how do we find citizens that don't have any conflicts of interest and don't have any preconceived biases. So that's the question I would like answered.
Thank you.
I guess my question first is for Attorney Bolt. Would discussion of incidents that could potentially lead to the damaging of someone's reputation or employment status not be violations of 91A by the town?
In other words, with this body,
Not where I thought you were going.
91A is the right to know law, and the question that I'm going to reframe a little bit is whether either an outside body doing the $8,000 investigation or an internal group of voters who are doing an internal investigation, would either of those results fall under the right to know law, and would all the communications associated with it fall under the right to know law?
My belief is if it was an outside agency like MRI, that is a protected investigation, like a police investigation is protected. I cannot say that the three-body citizens board would fall within the same protection. It's, in my eyes, much closer to an advisory body to the select board, which is subject to 91A.
So somebody could.
I'm going to stop for 1 second. So all the rules associated with privacy associated with employees and employment would not be the protection against 91A being active. Because if they are in fact an advisory body, not to the selectmen, but to the town, because they are being created by the town, they would not fall under 91A due to the protections associated with personnel matters. So I question, I would ask you to reconsider your comment. Let's leave it there. Go ahead.
What I've stated is it is unclear to me that there are 91A exemptions if it's the three-body board. So you're in a gray zone going that way, all the best of intentions.
That's never a good thing. But
Pardon?
gray zones are never a good thing.
Gray zones make me nervous.
Okay. Two more things quickly. We've been looking at this for 5 months, and yet nobody, I appreciate that any of us can come to you for anything, but none of you have come to us at all about any of it. Lastly, I move the question on the amendment.
You don't get to do that. People are waiting to speak, but I'll recognize that that's something that one person desires so far.
Hi, Linda Haver. For transparency, I was at the select board meeting where they talked about having Chief Hayford do the investigation. I spoke out that I thought it was a conflict of interest and wrong. First, another question. Does anyone have the amount that the $8,000 would impact our taxes by?
I'll ask for someone to do the arithmetic. What's dollars per 100,000, all that, but please proceed while they're doing
The other thing is, I know these people. I like Todd, I like Nancy, I like Bill, but I don't want them doing an investigation. I want the professionals doing it. I think that you can still have that done and have goodwill if these people are used to doing it. And then if anything comes out, wouldn't it just go to the county attorney's office anyways?
Thank you.
Mr.
Okay, sure.
Linda, it's on the 2026 warrant article summary. The $8,000 would result in 0.007 cents in tax effect on $1,000. So 0.007.
0.7 of a penny per thousand. And of course, our assessments have gone up so much that that's actually $8 million, just so you're on. So I'm sorry.
Mr. Moderator, can I
yes.
just to speak to Linda's comment about being at the meeting. I know you were at the public meeting where we discussed it, but what you weren't at was a non-public meeting where it was voted on 4-0 to have that investigation go through with the police department. You were at the public meeting where those votes were apparently rescinded without notice.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Arruda for a second shot. And we are getting close to accepting a motion to move the question if we're not seeing new people. But go right ahead, please.
Just a comment. I am probably one of the only people in this room that has dealt with MRI once before, years back. It has a way of morphing itself into our legal line as well. We are already contracting with MRI to do some of our administrative work. I believe the hourly rate is something in the order of just over $100 an hour. I could be wrong, but I think it's close to that.
Right now, I believe it's 70, sorry.
It's how much?
70 an hour. is
For
what
the
we're
administrative
contracted for.
work.
Yes, plus travel time and mileage.
Right, because they get paid from the time they leave Meredith till the time they get back to Meredith.
We get 1 hour of round-trip travel for free, and after that, they're charged at half the rate.
Molten
and then it's mileage.
I just don't want this thing to morph into something bigger than it really is. I'm almost wondering if I should not have even brought this up. But anyhow, it has drawn a lot of information. I think we should move on.
Thank you.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I have
Yes.
something to say. Thank you. As the Budget Committee looked at this as well when it came up, and as you can see, our vote was kind of split, that we didn't recommend this. We didn't recommend it because we felt that it belonged back in the budget. But that being said, because there is a warrant article on the table, proposed by a selectman, approved 5-0 by those same selectmen, even though there may be a difference of opinion now. One of the things that I think we need to address is that if this is approved, it becomes a town mandate. This is a mandate from the taxpayers to understand what happened, why it happened, and how never to have it happen again, either on this subject or any other subject. Additionally, one of the things that we haven't talked about, we talked about the liability issue, but we haven't talked about the financial impact to the town. Your taxpayer dollars were potentially, I'm going to say potentially because nobody knows the outcome of this, were potentially used for purposes that are not necessarily for the benefit of all of you. They were for the benefit of perhaps an individual person or an individual family. That's in the grand scheme of things, obviously we all know that's not right. That's not how we want things to do. Thirdly, the policy always said you couldn't use town property for personal purposes. The change to the policy did nothing but make it more specific and clarify to everyone that it was absolutely a no-no. Town property could be taken home, but only if it was going to be used for town purposes. And the example we all use all the time is if you took a plow truck home last night in order to be able to plow yourself out of your driveway to get to your route to plow the road. That is an acceptable use of town property at your home. So no one's asking about those things. No one's gonna talk about those things. Those are perfectly acceptable. But understanding going forward what is acceptable and what isn't is important. And then the last point that I want to bring up is that the individual, Mr. Arruda said, this has a habit of kind of morphing. The selectmen would have control of that. It would be their responsibility, and it's our accountability of them to hold them responsible to do their job and make sure that it doesn't morph. Make sure that there's a clear and specific objective given to whoever is going to do this, and that gets managed along the way so that it doesn't morph.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. One final comment, and then I will...
Mr. Moderator, could I have the one as well?
Well, it's a family question, so you guys have to go right ahead.
No, it's not.
I'm sorry, I'm my own independent person. I can think independently. I don't appreciate that comment.
My apologies.
I think that's an insult to my autonomy. But I'd just like to speak to emphasizing the importance of an investigation. If nothing is done, this is a rhetorical question, what kind of precedent is set for the future? Are we setting the precedent that town officials can get away with whatever they want as long as it's too inconvenient for the town to hold them accountable? And there's huge gaps in legality, liability. We need to know what is improper use, what isn't, and that really isn't all that clear right now. And in a New Hampshire Supreme Court case, Clapp versus Jaffrey, it ruled that personal use for this, in this exact case, unless the town had a compelling interest to the entirety of the townspeople, is illegal. So with this misuse of town property, we are open to potentially huge lawsuits of tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I think $8,000, or maybe even less than $8,000, because the warrant article says up to $8,000, is a small price to pay for saving tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits in the future.
Thank you. Selectman Gray?
I guess I want to reframe the way this affects employees. We have talked to employees. I think, obviously not all employees. I think the goal is to interview, not interrogate. The point is to get information, not grill people. Employees will get a chance to clear the air, and if they have an opportunity to do so anonymously, I want them to be able to do that. They would be able to say, objectively, this is what I'm aware of, this is what happened. They don't even say it's me. They could just say this is aware, and if they have the ability to do this anonymously, clear the air, share what they know, then I want them to be able to do that. Are there other ways to do that they can do that anonymously? They could submit information anonymously to the board or to a third party, to someone objective. But I think it is important because, to find out, I don't want to call it an investigation anymore, but to find out, we found out that there are non-employees using town equipment. So that's just another gap that we have to identify and close. If someone is a registered volunteer, can they do that? Are they, can we make sure that they're trained? Can we make sure that that's allowable? Do we make sure that we have them fill out a complete form? So we need information to make sure that we're addressing everything, closing the gaps, moving forward. Do I want us to heal? Do I want us to move forward? Yes. All of us do.
Thank you. Quickly?
Yes, can I move both the amendment and the question at the same time?
No. So we're about to vote, and the first vote will be, and essentially get to what you're requesting. Let me explain what we're voting on before but I will not forget you. So the first vote will be to decide whether to approve Mr. Milliken's amendment and replace the language that's in your book with his language. So you can all look in the book and see what Article 24 says. And I'm going to read Mr. Milliken's motion again. It would replace Article 24 with the following language. This legislative body assigns a 3-person review and report committee to review and report on policies, practices, and activities regarding the non-public use of public assets. The report will become a public document released on or before September 14th, 2026. The review and report committee will be made up of 3 Madison voters, Stuart Lord, Nancy Martin, Todd Milliken. The review and report committee will automatically dissolve at the end of next year's town meeting. So if you prefer that language, the language of a review and report committee by local voters, then you will vote yes. And if you prefer the language that's in your book to have an investigation for up to $8,000, then you would vote no. All that would do would be to decide which of the 2 approaches you prefer, and then we'll have another vote to determine the final approval of the article, whichever of the articles is put in place. So the first vote is, do you favor the Milliken amendment, or whether you favor the article as printed in your book? Mr. Dempster. And if it's a point of order, you can just say it out loud. But go ahead, yes. Because there's no debate on a point of
Mr.
order.
Moderator, I have signatures of 5 people attending this meeting who would like a secret ballot not only on the Milliken amendment, but also warrant Article 24 as written.
And I'll actually need 2 sets of that, but that's easy. We'll take care of that. But go ahead and hand that in, and then we'll take care of it. So we have 5 names, and this will be a secret ballot. So Believe me, I'm going to repeat it a couple more times to make sure you know what you're voting on. But there are 2 boxes, one over there, a nice blonde box, and one dark-haired box over on that side there. What you do is you tear off the 2-letter A items. If you don't have letter A on what you hand in, it will not be counted. It must have letter A on it. You'll tear letter A in half, and there's a yes and a no. If you hand in the yes and put it in the box, a yes, then you're saying you prefer that there be a 3-person voter-led review and report. If you vote no, you prefer the up to $8,000 investigation. Yes for the Milliken Amendment, no for the to keep in place the article as in your book. You have a very few minutes.
This is democracy.
Mr. Bolt.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for your contribution. I got to say, it makes no sense that 91A would apply to interviewing employees by a representative body, a town-created body. That seems to clearly violate the rule.
It's the gray area is the definition of the public body. And when you have an advisory body that is, in essence, of the town, I think that is the equivalent of the selectmen.
I know. Why did I ever
The
do that?
selectmen's investigation is more likely than not open through 91A.
To interview employees? Come on.
From a standpoint of their results, what I'm saying
Oh, yeah,
is-
the results are public. Absolutely, no
Right.
question. But not.
You stuck around. Oh, you've been abandoned, actually.
We need to be able to repopulate the budget. Oh, sure, right. That's why we. Right, we can still, it doesn't say lease payment, so if it said lease payment, then we could make the lease payment. But we could still amend it to make the lease payment in our budget, because it doesn't say payment. Yeah. Yes. That's why.
I'll do that. Not at all. No. Hi.
No, that would cause some
Snow in.
Yeah. Right.
Has anyone not voted? Is anyone who wants to vote not voted? I'm about to close the polls. The polls are closed. Let the count begin. Mr. Milliken, keep your distance from the ballots.
What's your favorite, George?
There are donuts and stuff in the back corner, and there are donations requested from the PTO. And one other point. Madison Television is attempting to stream this meeting live so people at home can watch it. That's a nice service that they do provide, one that's appreciated. The Wi-Fi in this room is currently incapable of doing that streaming. So any of you who have their phones or whatever attached to the Wi-Fi who don't desperately need it to be attached, it would be wonderful if you could turn it off, and that would permit Madison Television perhaps to successfully stream. The attorney can keep his on so he can provide us with accurate information when I ask him questions. PTO is trying to raise money for that playground that was defeated, the 80 grand. Maybe they can build it for 50 if they're trying to do it off of donut sales. So, this is actually the Madison Rec. Oh, Madison Rec, close enough. Very good. Another good purpose. Absolutely. Absolutely.
We've got about 7 hours.
Just to fill the gap here, the SAU budget, I've been informed, across the three towns, Tamworth, Freedom, and Madison, did pass by 20 votes. That's a close vote across three towns. I think we're about to get a count. Thank you all. So while there were 3 Fs that were submitted instead of As, the count would not have changed decisively. The vote on the amendment was 32 yes, 106 no. So the amendment's defeated, and we're back to the article that's in the book to raise the $8,000, up to $8,000 for the purposes of an investigation. Yes.
Can I move to table the article, please?
So if you go ahead, say it again.
I'd like to move to table the article, please.
So, as a general rule, we don't table things, we act on them in a decisive fashion, yes or no. There is a wonderful legal discussion to be had about whether tabling is actually acting on the article one way or the other. I'll accept. No, you don't want to do that. Does anybody want to second the motion to table the article? No, I think we want a yes or no vote. We've gone through a secret ballot already, so I think we want to have action one way or the other. Is there any final discussion on Article 24 as it's in the book? We've had a lot of discussion. Article 24 reads, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of up to $8,000 for the purpose of an independent investigation into personal use of town property. That motion is on the floor. It was made and seconded by the selectmen. The motion to amend it was defeated, and now we're looking back at this article as it's in your book, and we have a request for this to be done by secret ballot. And we have 5 names of people who would like to do that. And so I'm going to...
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, yes.
I just want to make sure that everybody's informed as to what the implications of voting on this are right now. Could I do that?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So a yes vote as is means you're authorizing the select board to spend up to $8,000 to conduct this investigation. You have the ability right now to vote it down to $2,000, to make an amendment to vote it down. So that is an option that you have right now. If you vote it down, it doesn't mean no investigation, but it means no money spent on an investigation. We can't put back into the legal line to have a paid investigation. We cannot use the legal budget later, if approved, to pay for an investigation. So just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of those options. So no means no money spent on it. No doesn't mean no investigation. I hate the word investigation. It's just we make it an internal process to interview and then perhaps work with the attorneys to find out any gaps in Primex, to find out any liability. Just wanted to make everyone know. Do I have that wrong, Attorney Bolt? No, I was just making sure that everyone had all the information that that I have in order to make this decision. I'm not trying to persuade anyone any which way. I just wanted everyone to understand that those are my options. Those are the options as I understand it. I want to make sure everybody understood that as well. That's all.
Yeah, so there are a lot of legal issues that come up as a result of those comments, but I'd like to emphasize, number one, Selectman Gray's comment that this remains open to amendment. So this article is back to where it was when we first put it on the floor, and someone could amend it to modify the dollar amount or specify how long it goes back, how far back in history it looks into, et cetera. So it is open to additional amendment, number one. Number two, the issue of the no means no thing, that you defeat an article, a warrant article that calls for an investigation of this particular topic and $8,000, going back and revisiting it during the operating budget and essentially defeating it here and then trying to redo it under the operating budget. You can't quite do that, but there are a lot of ways around that. You could still spend legal dollars to explore, look into, review, whatever this matter. So that's a very complicated area, I think, and not clearly defined. Having said that, the opportunity to modify or amend this article continues to exist. So, number one, does anyone want to speak further to the article, and does anyone want to propose an amendment to this article as it reads in your book? No. Number two, then, we're ready to vote, and we're going to, go ahead.
Sorry, Mark Fonts, Go Hill Road. I guess that was not my understanding of how the article was written. It was asking if the town wanted an investigation that we would spend $8,000 on. Up to $8,000 on. So I'm going to make a motion that should this fail, there be no further investigation. Put this to bed. This has been awful for the town to watch this whole thing transpire and what's happened with the morale of the employees. We have employees who have left. We have employees who are on the verge of leaving, and we have employees who feel like they have to walk on eggshells. Let's put this to bed. If this article fails, this goes no further.
If it fails, there'll be no, quote, investigation, unquote, that costs money.
Okay, thank you.
That's not necessary, I don't think, to have another motion. The no means no is clear enough that way. Yes?
I'd just like to respond to what he said. It is completely valid to be concerned about how this is going to affect the employees, but an investigation like this, there will be no retribution, nothing, no punishment to the employees. The only potential accountability that will be held is to the leadership that let it happen. And I'd just like to emphasize one more time how important this is. $8,000 now can save us hundreds of thousands of dollars in lawsuits later.
Thank you. Yes?
Danita Dudley, Colby Hill Road. I feel like it's already been discussed amongst our board. They've already done an investigation to the point where they needed to change policy. So if that is the case, they've already done it, they've already handled it and dealt with it, why do we need to move anywhere else with this? I think we're done.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Austin Thomas, Conway Road. This is a waste of time. $8,000. You guys say up to, MRI, $5,000 to get here. They're going to take all of it. There's no up to. It's all of it.
Thank you.
Tino Fernandez, Peak Vista Lane. I came here with the idea that I wasn't going to vote for this, but I've been listening back and forth from all the varied people that are involved in this, the selectmen, the board, the employees, the police department, and I don't think we're ever going to put this aside until we just basically let the investigation happen, and then everyone will have to accept what that independent thing does, because I don't think there's a lot of trust right now, and I now have thought in my mind that we should pass this motion, this article.
Thank you. Yes.
Cheryl Harris, Conway Road. We voted for you, all of you on the board.
We left this decision up to you. This investigation was up to you. So I'm trusting in the people that we put on the board to do their job. And that's all it means. Do your job.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Gordon Snyder, Witten Ledge Lane. I'd like to move the question.
I don't think we need to vote. I think we're ready to move forward, vote on moving the question. So we will move forward by having a secret ballot. If you would tear off letter B, B as in boy, and put yes or no. If you are in favor of the investigation for up to $8,000, please put yes. If you are not, please put no. And we will wait until the count is done before we proceed with the rest of the meeting. Yes, sir.
Hold on. Yeah, it's helpful. But it is nice
Can we have a minute? I'm gonna go, well, now that I'm go back to our Canadian, why did you like that?
Okay, an idea. Yeah. Yeah. They have the same day of birth. They're in trouble.
Anyone else need to vote? Any final voters? Seeing none, the polls are closed. Please start the count. Please start the count.
Look out, they're having a conference back there.
Depends on how you voted. Where's the girlfriend?
We watched Dark Shroud. Yeah, talk about the shroud and how kids today, they text each other, but back in the day, if you wanted to talk to a girl, you had to call her house. When one was like reading a news show, he said, real at the beer, and drinking Blu-rays.
Yeah, I did. I'll take it. Oh, geez. I don't really need them. I had angry ones.
Munchkins, look at you, darling. Oh my God. Thank you. No, little ones are bad. They're just all glazed. All right. My sister, my niece, she went to school in Santa Barbara. Who was, I can't even forget who it was. He was a short fellow. My niece is 6. So you used to her last name and my maiden name is so he used to call her Big Two. Some towns are like 1,700.
The results of Article 24 are in. We had one D and one F vote. Down from 3 to 2, the people who don't quite get the alphabet. But the results of Article 24 are yes, 62, no, 82. So Article 24 is defeated, and we are going to proceed ahead with Article, I'm sorry, I should be right ready, with Article 5 on page 171 in your book in the yellow. And thank you for the tenor of the discussion, the conversation, the respect, the lack of personalization. It was the right debate that we had on 24, and I do appreciate everyone's tenor in that debate. Article 5, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $52,740 to pay off the lease of the police cruiser purchased in 2025, with the entire amount to come from unassigned fund balance. Motion?
Do I have a motion and a second?
Second. Thank you.
Moved by Jake, second by Jim.
Okay. Is there any discussion with regard to this? Would you like to just briefly explain?
The idea here is to save tax dollars, not only in this budget, but over time. So with the police cruiser, we'll save roughly $4,000 in interest over time, and the lease payment of $14,200 this year.
Thank you. Is there any discussion, amendments proposed, questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 5 as written in your book, hold up your ballot, please. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes.
Too quick.
Oh, did you want to say no? Okay. You couldn't get your ballot up? Okay. We'll Article 6, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $119,457 to pay off the lease for the transfer station truck purchased in 2024, with the entire amount to come from the unassigned fund balance. And I won't read the recommendations unless someone asks me to. Do I have moved and seconded?
Moved by Jim, second by Jake.
Thank you. Any discussion? It's the same kind of situation. Please understand that this isn't free. The unassigned fund balance are dollars that conceivably would be returned to you in lower tax rates in the future if you didn't spend it this way. But of course, you're saving the interest and you would ultimately spend it anyway. So just don't want anybody to think unassigned fund balance means free. Are there any questions, comments, amendments? Yes, please. And please go to the microphone so that all the folks now listening at home can hear you.
Mr. Moderator, can I just put the numbers out there real quick?
Sure.
So the lease payment on that truck this year is $31,745.47. We're saving over time $7,525 in interest.
$7,000. Thank you. Yes, sir.
My question is, where does the unassigned fund balance rest, and is it in an interest-bearing account? That's how households make a decision whether to pay off a low-interest loan or not, depending on how their money's doing. So maybe where does it come from and where does it rest?
Okay.
So right now, I don't have the number right in front of me until I look it up, but my understanding is I believe there's $1.01 million in the unassigned fund balance at this moment. Most of that money comes from revenue, whether it be from rec fees or from our franchise fees from cable or taxes or...
And the interest we're receiving in that account, you happen to know off the top of your head?
I don't know the interest we're receiving off the top of my head. That would be a question for Ms. Shackford.
But Mr. Milliken, your question would be if we're getting 5% interest on it and we're paying 3% interest to the loan, it'd be better off just paying off the loan, right?
Mr. Monnery?
Yeah.
So I can tell you that the interest rate on the loan is definitely higher than what we're receiving.
Definitely higher,
It's
6.99, Mr. Dame?
6.99%. 5.94% on the truck and 6.49 on the cruiser.
Thank you. Thank you. That's helpful, and my guess is we're not getting that much on the money in the bank. Okay, so we're all in agreement. Any question further on Article 6 or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 6, please raise your hand with your ballots. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. Much quicker. Good job. Article 7, the main, one of the main operating budgets, Article 7, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $1,955,437 for general government. This article does not include appropriations contained in separate, in special or individual articles addressed separately. Moved and seconded.
Can I make a motion to amend after speaking
No,
with the...
we'll first put the article on the floor and then
Okay.
accept the motion to
Got
amend.
Do I have a motion to put the article on the floor? Moved by Jim,
Second.
second by Joy.
Okay, and a motion, you can move right to the motion to amend if you wish.
I make a motion to amend the general government buildings line by adding $6,000 after talking with the DPW with the current fuel increases. $6,000 should cover the fuel costs for the rest of the year.
Okay?
And thank you to Dave Swift who calculated that to the penny.
And so it's exactly $6,000?
Well, 5,900 and something and some cents. So we rounded up, but Dave did the calculations to the penny.
So the amendment is for $6,000?
Yes.
And the second is from Mr. Bowie? Sure. Okay. And so pushing myself to my limits here, $1,961,437 would be the new bottom line. $1,961,437. Everyone's nodding their head. Thank you. So we have a motion on the floor. First to address the amendment. So we're not voting on the main motion yet. We're just voting on the amendment. Do you wish to add $6,000 to this article in order to cover the increased fuel costs? Something we're all pretty much aware of. Is there any discussion or question with regard to just the amendment to add $6,000? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of adding $6,000, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? The amendment passes. And now we're back to the main motion, which is a bottom line vote of $1,961,437 for the total amount of Article 7. Are there any, I've typically read each of the line items here. I don't necessarily have to do that. I could just open it up to any questions with regard to any of the individual line items that you see here. Any questions, concerns, amendments that you might have? Let's take a minute for everyone to have a chance to take a look. Yes, down at the end.
I'd like to make an amendment on the Madison Peg TV line to adjust that to the amount of our franchise check, which is $31,400 and change. I'm sorry, how do you have those numbers? $31,400.
Okay, so you would like to change that number by to $31,400. The revised, well, we can compute the grand total later. So it would be reducing it by about $22,000, $22,400, if I did the arithmetic correctly. So I have a motion to do that. Is there a second?
No, I have a clarification.
Well,
okay.
Go ahead if you have a clarification.
So that would have been increased if we had, we should have increased the fee 2 years ago under the current contract that expired 2 years ago, but it was still within our power to increase the fee. And Mad TV has been requesting that we increase that fee. We have not accomplished that, but we still have an opportunity to accomplish that. So that would bring that dollar amount back up again.
Well, okay.
That would be $33,500 would be the total.
I'm sorry. We'll take it one step at a time. You have a motion on the floor, Mr. Bowie, to change that number to $31,400. That is your motion. And is there a second, Mr. Price? So we now have it on the floor to modify the number to $31,400. I did not quite understand the discussion with regard to changing the dollar amount of the fee that's charged to Spectrum users. So
I can explain that if you want.
Go ahead.
So right now we're in the middle of contract talks with Charter. We have an attorney doing those contract talks for us to increase the percentage of fee that is rolled onto the customer to 5% so that we would get more back in that check every year. However, that check still would only go up about $2,000 with the declining use in cable.
Okay, so even if you're successful in the negotiation, the amount that would be available would be as much as $33,000 something dollars. Okay.
I believe it might be retroactive for the past 2 years that we had we could have up, or should be up to it. Increasing it.
But the motion is to reduce it to what the current payment is that we receive in franchise fees for this coming year. Yes.
Cynthia Lord, Plains Road. Question to the Budget Committee.
not recommended. It says you did not recommend this budget. Why, or in what categories, or what was your thinking?
And I'm going to hold you up on that question for just a second. Unless you are going to comment specifically on the PEG TV line, let's deal with the amendment first, and then we'll come back to that question. Okay, so would anyone like to speak on the amendment to reduce the amount under Madison PEG TV from $53,800 to $31,400? Yes, please.
Woody McNiven. I'd like to know, if we reduce the budget as the amendment says, how is that going to impact operations for Madison TV? I'm a commissioner for the Village District of Idaho, and we rely on Madison TV covering our meetings. It's essential. It's essential, not only for us as commissioners, but for anybody who's interested in what's going on. Also, as a former director of a board of a public access TV in Simsbury, Connecticut, I know the value of public TV, so I'm concerned about how it's going to impact their operations. And I didn't hear anybody who oversees Madison TV address that with this amendment.
Well, let's look around. Would someone like, someone informed, comment on that? Yes, sir.
Hey, yeah, Doug McAllister. I am on the board of Mad TV, and I have done this in a different town for 13 years before I came to Madison, and I've been on the board now for 6, 7, 8 years. I'm not sure. I have a statement I'd like to read from Ron Force, who is also on the board but cannot be here today. He says, my apologies for my absence this morning. I'm in an MRI tunnel in Portsmouth for a knee injury. I am honestly amazed by the quantity and quality of work our Madison PEG TV team provides to our town. For less than 1% of the total 2026 town provost budget, our devoted PEG TV crew records every official town and school meeting with state-of-the-art video equipment and posts these meetings online for free viewing. Those video recordings can be easily accessed using many different types of personal electronic devices, anytime, anywhere in the world. The transparency they provide to our Madison citizens on behalf of our local elected officials is nothing short of outstanding and worth every penny of their modest $53,800 budget for 2026. Informed voters ensure better solutions for Madison's future. That's by Ron Force. And I have to say for myself that Ad TV, the volunteers, not the volunteers, the videographers that we have do a wonderful job. Mad TV, because of what it is, it's electronic. We have a lot of very expensive electronic equipment. And if something goes down, the whole station goes down. So I'm very much against this amendment, and I would like to leave the budget at $53,800. And as a second point, the increase in the fee from 3.5% to 4.5% is not limited to the contract negotiations we're taking now. That's in our old contract. We've asked the town multiple times to go to selectmen, to go to Spectrum to raise that. It's never happened. For some reason, they've lumped it in with the current contract negotiations. Shouldn't have done so. So, again, I'm certainly against this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. I apologize for sitting. I've had a little surgery, and I'm going to sit some. Go ahead.
Hi, Cheryl Brooks. My question on Madison TV, and I am actually a subscriber, so every time there's a meeting, I get a notification on my phone, which is very helpful. But I got a notification that we were airing a Tamworth Candidates Night. And I was told that Madison TV was compensated for them sending our town equipment outside of town. Where does the money that we were compensated by the town of Tamworth go? Is my question, and is this a service that we offer to other towns if they need it? Because I don't think we should.
Thank you.
Well, you don't think we should. It's a nice thing for us to do, especially if we're being compensated for it. The money goes into the general budget, and Hopefully, it'll come back to Mad TV for adjusting the $53,800. And it's a nice thing to do for the towns to cooperate with each other. So I don't have a problem with doing that. We pay our videographers to do that, or I should say, Tamworth pays our videographers to do that, and it doesn't cost the town anything.
So the money that we get paid goes back to the town general fund, or it goes back to Madison TV?
Any money we get goes to the town fund.
It does go into the
Okay.
general fund. We just got clarification
I'm
that the
just
check was
checking, 'cause
received. Yep.
Somebody
Good
give
question.
me other
Hold on, hold on.
information.
Sorry, Cheryl, to clarify, two separate issues. She has the check for the fees. We do not have a check from Tamworth.
But we expect a check from Tamworth that would cover that service.
Right.
Thank you. Yes.
Maureen Downs, Blackbrook Road.
Tilt
I'm
down
an
a little
alternate.
bit.
I'm an alternate on the Madison TV board, and I've been affiliated with Madison TV for many years. They do a wonderful job, and the change that has occurred since it started several years ago now is that this is not just a service that is provided to subscribers. It's provided to everyone on YouTube. So that is a big change. It's a service to everyone in the town. The second thing I'd like to say is that if we are successful in recovering the 1%, that should add $10,000 or $11,000 to that $31,000, because that represented 3.5% of the subscriber fee. So another percent should definitely get us a $10,000.
This is a $310,000.
Microphone?
Sorry. It was a $310,000 amount on that, I believe, and we got the $31,400. So that would be another $3,400.
A 1% of the whole subscriber fee. The $31,000 represents 3.5% of what was collected. So if we were to get an additional percent, it should be an additional $10,000, and I see Joy shaking her head, yes, in agreement with that. So
Right, because
I'll move that.
1% is 3/4 of what it would be. It wouldn't be 1%. It's 1% equals 3/4 of 4.5%. So that 30,000, adding 1/4 to that would be about 10,000. Well,
Exactly.
yeah, give or take 10,000.
That's what I'm trying to point out. So that would bring our total up to more in line with 42,000 as opposed to where it is now. But I just want to remind you, it's a service to everyone in the town now, as opposed to several years back when it was just for subscribers.
Thank you. And I'll assert my math teacher skills to agree that it seems like it would be more, substantially more than $3,000. Oh, you were going to add that. Go ahead.
No, I wasn't going to add. I was going to ask Mr. Moderator a question with regard to the process. This meeting many years ago set the level of funding of Madison TV at the amount of the franchise fees collected by the town of Madison. That is simply a statement of fact, not opinion. Nothing has happened at this meeting to alter that.
Just,
I don't mean just this meeting.
no, I understand.
Town meeting.
In terms of process, one town meeting with the exception, a few exceptions that generally required a supermajority, one town meeting does not control the actions of another town meeting. But it's absolutely true that historically we have, and we initially set that funding at the level of the franchise fees. Things have changed, and many of us, like me, don't use Spectrum's service for our television, and yet we do use the internet in order to look at Madison TV, and so those things change. But certainly it is absolutely accurate that historically the intent of the funding level was to match the amount of the fees that we received from Spectrum, and this would leave that behind if we went to the 51,000 while we were down at 30-something thousand in reimbursement. But keep in mind, everything under Article 7, all of those things, are all coming out of our general fund, out of our taxation, and other sources of income. So all the money, including the spectrum fees and Tamworth's payments and everything, all go into the giant bucket along with all of our tax money, our property tax money and so on. And then this is how we're voting to use that money, and we're making a decision today about how much of that to use in each of these line items. So if we want to keep it tied to the amount we get from the franchise fees, we can, or we can vary it. That's up to this group. Go ahead.
Jake Risch, East Madison Road. I just wanted to follow up on the question that was asked a couple minutes ago about if we take the $20,000 out of the budget, what does that equal in reduced services from Madison TV? Like the specifics of what capabilities we would lose or trade off.
We'll ask Asia Wellinghurst to respond to that. Jake Risch, I didn't recognize you. Jake Risch was one of the worst basketball players that you've ever seen here, and he's a spectacular skier, wonderful athlete. Even my coaching couldn't turn him into a basketball player.
I'm glad I didn't know you when I was younger,
Yeah,
George.
no, not the easiest coach to deal with, it's true.
To answer the question about what would change in operations, I would go back and meet with my board, and we would likely decide what meetings we wouldn't film anymore.
So it would have a direct impact on how many of our...
I believe so. It's $20,000, $22,000 is a lot
Yep.
of money.
Thank you.
George, if I may.
Yes.
I don't think either Jake making the motion or myself seconding it
Can you
is
turn up the juice on his
debating
microphone?
whether or not Matt TV is an essential service to this town, and it is, and I love everything that they do. I subscribe and I see it all. However, what we have is a number in our budget, the selectmen's budget, for a department that the selectmen have zero control over, and thus the legislative body have zero control over what they do or how they operate, which is fine. They're a government oversight committee, but you can't have both. You can't be in this budget and expect taxpayer dollars without taxpayer input on how it's operated. And that's where the problem lies.
Who appoints the board of Madison TV?
That I'm not sure of, because in my tenure, I have not appointed any members to the TV.
Yes. I believe the law says that we are semi-independent and we appoint our own board members.
Thank
So
you.
we as a board have no control over pay of employees, hiring of employees, or appointment to the board, or anything that they do, whether they outsource or go to other towns or any of those things. Yet they're in the budget that we create. So there's no control by the taxpayer or by the board at this point.
Thank you. Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, Woodard McNiven again. Customers cutting the cable is, I think, something that's just only going to accelerate over time, which means franchise fees for public access TV are going to go down over time. And if community governments believe in open access and transparency, and I think they need to 100% support their public access TV. Now, I'm not saying that 100% of their budget, comes from the community. There'll still be some franchise fees, but I think there's going to have to be in the future some contribution by the municipality itself, and then the public access TV will probably have to start doing fundraising efforts too. But the point is that it's going to be a worsening problem from the franchise fees only over time. And I'm going to say, just at this moment, not knowing how it's really going to impact if we approve this $20,000 budget, and we were just told that some meetings would have to be cut. In my mind, that's unacceptable.
Thank you. Ms. Willinghurst?
I'll just make a point that we have quarterly board meetings, and anyone is welcome because they're public meetings. So if you would like to come to our meeting and ask us about our budget, discuss budgets, we post our meetings so you know that when they are, we're available to talk about our budget.
Thank you.
Mr. Monroe?
Yes.
Just to be clear, to Mr. Price's point, the town in the last 2 years has voted to increase the Mad TV budget over what we got. So the precedent has been set to do that with the town. Franchise fees are going down because people are cutting cable. And as somebody said, we make this service available to everybody here. And $20,000, which you're saying the townspeople have no access to or improvement over, is pitiful compared to $500,000 for this and $250,000 for something else. $20,000 is a small price to pay to have these meetings, what we're at right now, covered so that anyone in the world can see them. Thanks.
Thank you. That's the last time the adjective pitiful will be used during the course of this meeting to refer to any sum of money. Yes?
Noreen Downs, Blackbrook Road. I believe when I was appointed to alternate on the board that was approved by the selectmen. It was written to the selectmen by Hope Hutchinson, who was chair. So I do believe that the board does appoint the members of the Madison TV board.
Thank you. I'll let them work that out.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Nope, over here.
Wow, that's really...
Did it echo?
You are a ventriloquist. It's incredible.
I just wanted to give the audience some information with regard to the PEG TV budget line. Excuse me. The majority of their budget line is wages. It's a small amount that is for cable and contractors and equipment and online services, subscription services, and supplies. In fact, their supplies are like $500. So the majority of this money that we would be reducing in their budget will go toward reducing wages, not having money to pay for people to film these meetings. And there have been some rather lengthy meetings in town. And so not having access to someone to film them would be a great disservice, I believe, to the public, and not allow you to see these meetings for those people who can't get here or who are away for the winter, to be able to tune in and see what the conversation in town entails and what the committee's work are up to. Thank you.
Thank you. So we are voting not on the main motion, not on Article 7 in its entirety, only on the amendment. Whether we are in favor of reducing the line item under Madison PEG TV from $53,800 to $31,400. So if you vote yes, then you are in favor of the amendment that would reduce the amount. If you vote no, you want to keep the $53,800 number in the budget. So all those in favor of the amendment to reduce the funding for that line item, please raise your hand. All those opposed to reducing the funding. Motion seems to be defeated, or the amendment defeated, and we are back to Article 7 as amended with the $6,000 that was added into general government buildings. Yes, sir.
Mark Font, Sco Hill Road. I would like to make an amendment to the budget line of Madison PEG TV that we go back to the $48,800 that was approved at last year's meeting, seeing that we only spent $45,800 this past year.
Okay, so I have a motion to amend Article 7 to reduce the Madison PEG TV number from $53,800 to the $48,800 that was approved last year. Is there a second to that motion? Yes, Ms. Harris, is that the name correctly? Thank you. So there is motion on the floor to reduce it to that amount, and it was noted that the amount actually expended in 2025 was somewhat less than that. Is there discussion with regard to the amendment?
I would just note that we didn't have, or that the Capital Improvement Committee was added and has met a lot, even so far this year, as well as the Master Plan Steering Committee. Was only formed, I think, in the second half or even the last quarter of last year. So going forward, we already have a lot more meetings to record, even in terms of just those two groups.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, we did not spend what was in the budget last year. However, that money goes into the fund that will cover expenses for very expensive equipment. If we lose one piece of equipment, it's going to be $25,000 to replace that one piece of equipment. So again, we may not have spent it, but we're saving it for the future. Thank you.
Is that accurate? The funds that are unexpended would remain in the unexpended town surplus. Does any unexpended funds there move into the trust fund? No, I don't believe that's correct. If you don't spend it, it stays in the unexpended fund balance. You just bought a police car with it, I think. Transfer, no. Yes, sir.
Woodard McNiven again. Okay, we're sort of looking at trying to adjust budget line items, but one that hasn't been addressed yet is because we did vote to approve to pay off the police cruiser.
I'm sorry. So we'll come back to that. We're speaking specifically about the amendment to reduce the Madison PEG TV budget from 53.8 to 53.8 to 48.8 for the moment. Ms. Downs?
We did return funds back to the general fund that were approved last year. That was a slight addition that the taxpayers approved last year that Mr. Price proposed, and everybody approved that. And we didn't spend it all, and it was returned. So just correcting you, sorry.
Thank you. Any further discussion on an amendment on the floor to reduce the amount of the Madison PEG TV amount from 53.8 to 48.8? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the amendment to reduce the amount from 53.8 to 48.8, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed to the amendment? Motion, or the amendment, is defeated, and we will go back to the original amount of 53.8 there. Now, we will move toward Ms. Lord's question to the Budget Committee as to why they voted against supporting, recommending the budget.
So one of the things that we looked at when we took this vote was that this portion of the budget was almost a 7% increase from last year, and we felt that there could have been more work done in certain areas, other areas that could have reduced. And I know in places we're talking about $1,000 here, $2,000 there, but overall it would have brought down the budget. Additionally, at the time that we took the vote was when the first instance of the warrant article for Article 24 was brought up before the Budget Committee, and the Budget Committee believed, well, you can tell, half of us believed, it was a split vote pretty much, believed that that money should stay in the budget line under legal as opposed to a separate warrant article.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments with regard to all of Article 7? Yes, sir.
A quick comment. We worked very hard this year. Our goal was to try to bring the budget in line with the cost of living increase, like, for the Social Security, which was 2.8%. And we thought a 7-8% increase was unaffordable, especially for our seniors living on fixed income. That was our goal. And again, we fought really hard to get some of the costs down. And I would like to see it aligned at 2.8%. And I forget, what's the exact increase right now?
Well, it's like 6.8.
6.8%. So we did try to get it down. We can do better. We'll work on that for next year. But that's where we're at. And again, I don't like to see big increases like that either, especially when, the cost of everything these days is high. And, our COLAs are, especially on the Social Security, it's only 2.8%.
And I do have one last general.
Let's let other people speak. Ms. Bowie?
So when we worked with the budget, before we added in the warrant articles that were proposed, we had the budget down to a 0.5. Adam, is that correct? 0.5% increase? And then, what's that? 5.4. And then when we added in the certain warrant articles that were recommended, that pushed our budget back up. So we did work diligently to lower our budget, and we got it down to less than, believe it was 0.5% over last year's budget before we added in the extra warrant articles, just for a point of clarification.
Thank you. Yes, sir. I'm sorry. Yes, if you wouldn't mind, Sharon.
Just a general comment too about the $6,000 that was proposed for the general government buildings to pay for fuel costs. In the original version, or at least one of the later iterations of this budget, there was an additional $4,000 in the fuel line and an additional $3,000 in the heat line in order to pay for what they believe would be the fuel costs going forward. So the $6,000 that's being proposed to be added back into that line was originally there. And in the effort to reduce the budget, it was taken out. But obviously, world situations being what they are, those prices have gone up, and nobody actually knows how much more they will go up. But this was a concerted and good number in order to put back in there that had already been vetted in order to make sense.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Okay, Widow McNiven again, I hope I can address this. Okay, as I was starting before, because we voted to pay off the police cruiser and the transfer station truck from the unassigned fund balance, should not the remainder of the year's balance due on those notes, principal and interest, be reduced from the notes due listed at $178,618 for this year?
Good
Question, if so, can that be quantified?
It can't be. So when we proposed this budget with those notes due removed intentionally, so that if they were to fail, we would have to make an amendment to Article 7 on the floor to increase to pay those notes. So right now, as you're looking at it, those notes are already removed.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
The increase, we took about $31,000.
Well, if you please
Sorry.
direct it to me first, but go ahead, please.
Sorry, Mr. Moderator. So the budget line was reduced by $31,000 for the roll-off truck, and then the new police cruiser was not added in. The reason why it still increased was we had to add $67,000 for the grader. So that's why it's still, the numbers look funny.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Sean Berger on Forest Pines Road. Two items that I'd just like a little clarification on. Planning board budget, 2025 approved was $9,350, and we're close to doubling that. Zoning board budget, $6,850 last year, and we are up significantly with our proposal to $27,550. I'd like an explanation on those, please.
So for both of those boards, the increase is generally across the board legal fees. We're facing a lot of battles right now with, and I can't speak to certain things in the zoning board because I don't sit on it, but I know they're facing challenges with legal issues, whether it be STRs or cell phone towers, and the same thing with the planning board. We're facing legal issues that we just have to budget for.
Thank you. Yes, Ms. Gray.
So the legal line was increased by $3,000 due to legal issues, and the master plan line was increased by $4,135 to cover our membership with North Country Council, who is working with us to create the new master plan.
Thank you. Yes.
Unless I've been misinformed, that the legal issues with STRs are coming from a separate fund and not from that line. The fund that was approved 2 years ago of $80,000 to spend on legal fees.
They are. My point wasn't specifically to SCRs. It was just the fact that both boards are facing legal issues.
So the expenditure for the legal fees associated with STRs, the legal fees were approved. Are they being expended from a separate fund? Do we have an expendable trust fund?
We have an expendable trust fund for the SCR fight, yes.
Thank you. Like buying a truck, we put legal fees away. Go ahead. Sneak up a little more. He wouldn't have cut in front of you, been closer. Go ahead.
Good morning, Mr. Epstein.
Good morning.
Robert Vaughn, Forest Pines Road. I just have a question on election registration, vital statistics. I would understand, or my inference would be that the tripled amount for that proposed line item is because it's a midterm election year or something, and we have more elections or things that have to be addressed. That's why that number is like tripled.
That's absolutely correct and unfortunately true. Last year we had one election. This year we're going to have 3.
Okay, thank you.
The moderator's salary did not go up. Just saying. Go ahead.
Christine Taylor, Beach Road. I just have, if you could give a quick explanation why the assessing fee went up quite a bit if we already did assessing in the last 2 years?
So we still pay assessing monthly, and although this isn't a reval year, we had a huge increase in the contract with Avatar. So this year we decided to sign a one-year contract and hopefully shop that out in the future and reduce those costs, but we have to have somebody on contract every year.
And actually, I do get paid more when there are more elections, don't I? It is proportionate to the number of elections. I lie. It's like $200 an election. It's not bad. That's not bad. Yeah, covers the donuts. Other questions? Yes.
I believe your stipend is actually a flat stipend of $450, so that wouldn't be per election. So if anybody wants to vote the moderator a raise right now, they could do so.
It keeps changing as to whether it's proportionate to the number of elections or whether it is the 450. I don't know. Okay, I'll check on it. I'll get back to you. I am not retiring on that, I have to say. Other questions or comments with regard to the entirety of the budget? So you anticipate negotiating or looking at other alternative assessing organizations?
At the very least, we're going to put it out to bid and see what other organizations are available and what they offer and what their prices are. I mean, obviously, we have a good relationship with Avatar, and if we can keep them, we'd like to, but we also need to save some dollars.
Understood. Thank you. Other comments or questions with regard to Article 7? Seeing none, we will vote. So the total amount we'll be voting on is $1,961,437 as a result of the amendment that was approved for general government buildings. Are there any final questions? If not, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 7 at that dollar amount, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes. Dollar amount is $1,961,437. You got it. Article 8, see if town vote to raise appropriate sum of $1,044,532 for public works. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Yes.
Moved by Jim, seconded by Joy.
Thank you. And much the same way, any particular questions, comments, or feedback or amendments that you would like to make to Article 8? Yes, thank you.
I propose an amendment to the solid waste line, specifically the contract subline, which covers our deliveries to Mark Harbury and such. There were increased fees last year, so we did go over budget by $10,000. And there will be increased fees this year in the amount of about $6,000. So I do propose, unfortunately, but we got to cover it, $16,000 increase to that line to cover the fees from last year and the upcoming fees for this year.
$16,000?
Yes, and again,
Okay.
I
And
thank,
so
I
can I
thank Dave
round-
Swift for calculating that to the penny and rounding up.
Can I round it to 150,000 even? I'm sorry.
You can keep that dollar, George.
Yeah, well, it should come to the moderator, all rounding errors. No, 150,000, right? Yeah, okay. So that's moved and seconded to increase the solid waste amount to 150,000, an increase of 16,000. I'm sorry, who was the second to? Thank you, Mr. Bowie. So any discussion, what are the fees? We're talking about the amount that we are charged for people to take away our stuff or to accept our stuff?
It's the tipping fee when disposing of the refuge from the transfer station.
And in addition, there's an additional surcharge fee in addition to the increase in the tipping fee. It sounds like we do get some of that back, so hopefully that 16 will go back into the general fund like other things. But there were an increase in 2 fees.
Thank you. So we're voting first on the amendment to increase the solid waste line by $16,000 to $150,000 even. there any further questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of the increase, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes, and therefore the grand total there is $1,060,532. 532. 531. Thank you. People are staying awake back there. That's really good. 1,060,150. Oh, geez. 531. Thank you. 1,060,531. Yes, sir. No, but I rounded it to 150,000 even on that, so that's the dollars. That's why I was impressed by our audience being so alert. Yeah, no, that's fine. Further questions or comments on Article 8? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of a total amount of $1,060,531 for Article 8, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Ayes have it, and the revised amount is approved. Article 9, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $692,255 for public safety. Is there a motion and second from the board? Thank you. Any discussion, comment, questions, amendments to Article 9? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those.
Sorry, I had a comment.
I'm sorry, I'm not hearing where they're coming from, but good microphone. Go ahead.
Just to discuss that the Budget Committee was split on this decision. So while it's 2-2, it will say that we recommended it. One of the biggest conversations we had, and I brought it forward, was the fact that and I understand these are emergency services and they are vital to our town. Please don't think anything that I'm about to say negates any of that. But the fire department over the last 6 to 7 years has budgeted the amount that they budgeted and then returned at the end in excess of $50,000 a year. In some years it could have been as much as 70, depending on how you count. I was an advocate for going back to the fire department and asking them to reduce their budget, not by that entire $50,000, but bring it down more in line with what their actual expenditures are, and bring it down about $30,000. When the Budget Committee took that to the selectmen agreed with the idea that there should be a reduction to the fire department's budget, but did not agree on the amount and recommended that the fire department be reduced by $15,000. That didn't happen. The fire department budget didn't change at all. There was no reduction to it. I have a hard time asking the taxpayers to pay an additional $50,000 for the fire department budget when it hasn't been used historically. I understand that you cannot necessarily predict all the expenses, which is why we didn't necessarily ask them to reduce it by the total $50,000, but to bring it more in line. And this is not an effort to penalize the chief for doing a great job at budgeting. It's an effort to recognize that we're budgeting more than we've used historically over the last almost decade, and bring it more in line with what we actually need. If there are lines within that budget, maintenance per se, because if a pump goes, it's terrible expense, it's very expensive, then increase that specific line. Don't necessarily just somewhere figure out how to increase the entire budget by $50,000. So with that being said, I'd like to make a motion to reduce the fire department budget by $15,000.
Is there a second? Mr. McAllister, thank you. Just a technical note, but a tie vote is a defeat. And so I would interpret the Budget Committee vote as not recommending, just for what it's worth. The motion is on the floor to reduce the fire budget by $15,000 to make it $150,750. And are there any further comments, questions, or amendments? The second was Mr. McAllister. Seeing none, we will vote on the amendment to reduce the fire rescue line item by $15,000. All those in favor of that reduction, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed, please raise your hand. Motion passes, the amendment passes, and the amount under fire and rescue is $157.50. And the amount, oh, I got to carry. Can somebody do the arithmetic for me under 677,255. 677,255. That looks right. Actually, not carrying; it's borrowing. So we're down to 677,255 under Article 9. Is there any further discussion, comment, questions, amendments on Article 9? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of a total amount of 677,255 for Article 9, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes as amended. Article 10, to see if town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $363,563 for the purchase of a plow truck with the entire amount to come from unassigned fund balance and no amount to be raised by taxation. It is anticipated that the town will be reimbursed $255,044 of the above amount from a Granite State Clean Fleet Grant Agreement. Moved and seconded by the selectmen.
Moved by Jake, seconded by Joy.
Thank you. Discussion with regard to Article 10, and let's keep it brief. We don't have to go through the details of the grant or anything, but what do we anticipate the final amount would be, assuming the grant monies come and all good things happen? What is the amount to be raised by taxation in the end?
There is no money to be raised by taxation in the end. The anticipation here is that we will purchase the truck outright with the unreserved fund balance and that total, and then the $255,044 that we would get back from the grant would go back into the unassigned fund balance. So about $110,000 we would lose from unreserved fund balance to replace the truck that was slated for replacement already.
Thank you. Further discussion or questions with regard to Article 10?
Just a quick clarification. This is a new truck or a used truck, a former lease?
Brand new truck.
Brand new truck.
Other comments? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of, again, raising and, utilizing the unassigned fund balance to the tune of $363,563 for the purchase of the truck with the hope of the grant being returned. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes. Article 11, to see if town will vote to raise and appropriate sum of $134,000 for chip sealing of town roads, including but not limited to East Madison Road, Pound Road, Colby Hill Road, Greenwood Road, Danforth Lane, Heritage Road, and Peak Vista Lane. This will be, a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA 3276 and will not lapse till the funds have been exhausted with the completion of the project or by December 31, 2031, whichever is sooner. And you see the recommendations. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. All those, any comments, questions on Article 11? Excuse me. Yes, sir.
Could we get some input as to how it was that these roads were the ones that were selected? There is a report on the town website about the condition of the roads, and East Madison Road is indicated as either in poor condition. Was there any consideration given to the traffic, the amount of traffic on these roads?
Yes, and actually, I'm sorry, Mr. Moderator.
Go ahead, please.
Yes, so actually, Article 14, you're going to see 3 articles that kind of deal with roads that aren't in desperate condition. And the Articles 11, 12, and 13 will take care of chip sealing and activities like that to maintain those roads in their condition or better condition. And then Article 14 is setting aside $100,000 to be placed into a fund so we can build up enough money to do a major reclamation and rehabilitation of roads like East Madison Road.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Yes, Ned Rogerson, and asphalt is a oil product. We've increased the costs for fuel, for heat, but do you think that your estimates for what you're going to need for asphalt are accurate?
Thank you. Any comment? Yes, please, Ms. Gray. Ms. Norland, I'm sorry, I should be standing. Please go ahead.
It is my understanding that although these numbers were put out, we're still going to be bound to go out to bid. So we'll be able to adjust accordingly so we don't overspend.
Thank you. Other comments or questions with regard to this article?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I can clarify that there were initial quotes obtained, estimates obtained to create these numbers. And then we will do our purchasing policy and do a formal bidding process to get solid numbers and choose from there.
Understood. Thank you. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we will vote on Article 11. All those in favor of this expenditure, please raise your hand. Thank you. Opposed? Motion passes. Article 12, see if the town vote raise and appropriate the sum of $260,700 for paving of town roads, including but not limited to Mooney Hill Road, Town Line Road, and Deer Drive. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation per RSA, et cetera, and will not lapse until the funds have been exhausted with the completion of the project or by December 31, 2031, whichever is sooner. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Thank you. Discussion with regard to Article 12? Yes, sir.
Quick. In regard to it's Mooney Hill Town Line Road, if you remember last year, we raised appropriated money to rebuild those roads. The money for the same roads this year is to put like an 1.5 or 2 inch top coat on. You know, the roads weren't finished last year, and if we don't put this top coat on, we're going to damage the base again. So by spending that money to finish these roads this year, we're going to extend the life. And that's why I voted in support of this.
Other discussion or question? Significant expenditure? We're clearly saving money on heat here in this room at the moment. So cuddle up if necessary. Keep the budget down. Article 12, all those in favor of this expenditure, please raise your hand. Thank you. Opposed? Motion passes. Article 13, see if the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $25,500 for crack filling of town roads, including but not limited to High Street. This will be a non-lapsing appropriation, et cetera. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Discussion with regard to Article 13.
Just to reiterate Joe's point, this is another one of those things that saves our roads in the long run. If we continue to crack fill, then we don't have to reclaim them completely as soon.
I haven't looked, but is East Shore Drive on that list for crack filling? It's where the tax money comes from. Just, I lived on Mooney Hill for 30 years.
The intent is to make this a practice every year going forward to keep those roads from being reclaimed as soon as they would be if we didn't do it.
Well, I'm going to go drive on High Street, and I hope there are big holes there. So, further discussion on Article 13?
I will add, Mr. Moderator, that East Shore Drive was on for next year.
Ah, okay, good. I just hope I last that long. It's as simple as that. Any further comments or questions on Article 13? Seeing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Passes. I so declare it. Article 14, see if town vote to establish a road reclamation and rehabilitation capital reserve fund under the provisions of RSA 35-1 for reclamation and rehabilitation of paved town roads, not for general maintenance, and to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed in this fund. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Thank you. Discussion, comments, or questions?
So this is what Joy was speaking to earlier, to hopefully build funds to reclaim some of those roads that are in serious condition, like East Madison Road, which is going to cost much more than $100,000, and we just didn't think it feasible to do it all in 1 year. So if we can put $100,000 away over the next couple of years, we can reclaim some of those really expensive roads completely.
Mr.
Thank you.
Moderator?
Yes, sir. Ma'am.
I would like to add that you do have the opportunity right now to add more to this, because I have zero partiality towards East Madison Road myself, but you do have the opportunity to add to it now to make it happen faster. Just
All
putting
of
that out
these,
there.
thank you. All these articles are open to amendment, and of course, if this was funded to a larger degree, things would happen sooner. Other comments or questions with regard to Article 14? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 14, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Article passes. Article 15, see if town will vote to establish a police cruiser expendable trust fund for RSA 3119A for the purpose of the future purchase of a police cruiser and upfitting of same, and appropriate $25,000 for this purpose, and further to name the selectmen as agents to expend from this fund. A motion and second.
Moved by Jim, second by Jake.
Comments or questions on this?
So this,
Adam, I was, the word ahead ends in a D. I'm so happy to see this article finally. I've been asking for this for 23 years, I think, especially now that it has been well established that municipalities no longer get cheap money. We don't get 2% interest anymore. It's upwards of, I think the last one, net 6.5%, and I would like to see all of our interest payments go away and just save up and buy outright what our needs are. And with Chief Hayford at the helm, whenever we need that little bit of extra time, he's been more than willing to get us through to get a car to last just a little bit longer, so we are able to save up.
Thank you. Ms. Gray?
Ms. Moderator, I am a member of the Capital Improvement Committee that added money to propose some of these warrant articles to do exactly that. So, again, this would allow us to purchase, as Nicole said, to purchase outright in the future as we build up this fund in a few years when we do need to replace it. Capital Improvement Plan is on the website, detailed what we need to replace when, how much we anticipate it's going to cost. Big spreadsheet, lots of details. Thanks.
Thank you. And I'm going to make note that this article does two different things. Number one, it creates this fund and puts $25,000 into it, but it also authorizes, names the selectmen as agents to expend. Historically, and I'm going back a few years, this isn't how we did things. We would set the money aside, and then the select board would have to come back to us with an article saying, I'm going to take money, I propose to take money out of the fund and to buy this vehicle and this specific vehicle at this particular time frame. This takes the town, you people, out of the authority to make the final expenditure and to decide whether this is the right year, the right vehicle, whatever it might be. And so you have the right to, and this is the article that's on the floor, and you would have to amend it if you wanted to retain the right to make the decision about when the actual purchase takes place and what was specifically purchased. And that would be true of other types of equipment as well. Yes, sir.
So in Article 14, the phrasing is to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000. In Article 15, the phrasing is to appropriate $25,000.
So it would be my interpretation that Article 14 would require, when it became time to expend money from Article 14, the Select Board would have to come back to us with a specific proposal about, I want to do this with East Madison Road, for example. In other words, they couldn't decide to do it whenever and whatever road reclamation that they wanted to do. They would have to come back to us for that approval. Article 15 says they don't have to come to us when they decide it's time to buy another police vehicle.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. That's good for people to understand.
Mr. Chairman, Bill Dempster, I'd like to make an amendment to Article 15.
Yes.
I would like to strike and further to name the selectmen as agents to expend this fund.
Is there, and I'm just the moderator, I'm not the, what'd you call me? No, chairman. Yeah, I'm not the chairman.
Well, you want me to call you a moderator?
Yeah, moderator. Yeah, so I'm sorry. The motion is, as proposed, would put a period after "for this purpose" in that last sentence. Is there a second to that motion? Second, Mr. Fernandez. Yeah, Mr. Fernandez. Yeah, Dr. Fernandez. Thank you. Is there any discussion with regard to the amendment which would eliminate the naming of the selectmen as agents to expend, meaning they would have to come back to us if they wanted to expend the money for a police cruiser?
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I'd like to hear from Chief Hayford on this, because I believe during our budget discussions and CIP discussions, there was a specific reason why we had the further name the selectmen as agents to expend, and I believe it might have had to do with timing of purchases and timing of being able to get police cruisers. So if Chief wouldn't mind, step into the microphone, please.
Is that your option, Chief? No one can make you talk. Yes, you do.
I'll take every opportunity to talk. I don't recall that conversation, Sharon. I know that my issue, and I thank the Board of Selectmen for creating this, it'll take the edge off when we have to get a cruiser that's $60,000 and then another $15,000 to outfit it. An issue I ran into a couple years ago with the previous Chief King was we did get 2 cruisers in 1 year. I'm not sure if that was a conversation for timing wise. Those 2 cruisers that we have now, they're 2 Tahoes. One is run by one officer, one is run by me. My mileage is considerably lower. I hope to get a year more to offset having to get 2 cars in 1 year. But I don't recall that the reasoning for what you noted.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I believe it had, the conversation was something along the lines of the fact that in March, every town has these meetings and every town is potentially voting to purchase a vehicle. So once now it's voted yes, then there's a constraint on how many vehicles are actually available to be purchased. And if the selectmen have the ability to do it a little bit earlier or later, move that timing a bit, then it's easier to acquire the vehicle as opposed to when 52 towns want police cruisers.
She's right. That is correct. So I go through the state bid process. The state has, they search for these vehicles and they put out only 1 or 2 dealerships that will collect them for municipalities. Those generally go out in November to basically get your hands on one, to have a place card. A lot of, some of the state equipment, they get it very, very early on in November, and they can get it into, January or February. We have to wait till March. Last year when we got our 2025 Tahoe, the next week after it was approved in March, I did put a place card on it. They had to build it, and we didn't get it till the end of the summertime. It does put us back for timing-wise to get equipment, to fight the tariffs, to get all the equipment to put into it. So yes, having it in a sense, if the selectmen were to approve it, to expend that money, yes, I could theoretically have a car ready in November when the state gets them and earlier. It's just a timing thing. And certainly using the outfitter I use now, if we have a car that goes down and we need one immediately, the timing does help. So it would be helpful.
Thank you. Other questions, comments on the proposed amendment to remove the selectmen as agents to expend?
Ned Rogerson, occasionally police cars have problems with other cars. They get totaled. I'm just curious what that would mean to the timing if we suddenly had a car we couldn't repair.
Another great question. We have 3 cars, 4 officers. We have rotated 3 cars around. So, yeah, I could make do with 3 cars. I'm not sure. We've never wrecked a car, thank God. Knock on wood. But the possibility is there.
Thank you. Well, we will vote on the amendment as to whether to remove the selectmen as agents to expend in this particular fund. All those in favor of the amendment to remove the selectmen as agents to expend, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Thank you. So the amendment is defeated and the article remains as it is in the book. All those, any comments or questions on this article as it reads in the book?
Hi, Cheryl Brooks. This is a general question about the next, 5 or 6 articles. It looks like there's, 250, 300,000 that we're voting to put into all of these funds. Is this going to be a repeat every year of all of these amounts, or is this?
Well, it already is. So we have hundreds of thousands of dollars, $400,000, $500,000 perhaps right now in various funds where the selectmen are agents to expend. Everything else we do in here, we decide each year about what we're going to spend money on. These are different. These generally are, not all of them, but most of them have the selectmen as agents to expend. So they have hundreds of thousands of dollars. Some years it gets up towards $1 million that they can expend. It has to be for the purpose that the fund is there for. They can expend it when they want to and for the particular purchase that they want to make. And that was why I raised the issue. People have raised it with me about the town giving up the authority to make the final decision about making a purchase. And that's what we're giving to our elected officials, to the selectmen, is the authority to make those. So most of these are already in place with the selectmen as the agents to expend. I did ask the attorney about this, and it is actually an interesting question. Of course, we could go back and change funds, and the question becomes whether we can do it with these warrant articles, whether it requires a 2/3 vote, and we don't have crystal clear answers on that. But the fact of the matter is that we've gone down this road, and really the question in Article 15 was whether we want to do it with all these articles. Do we want to keep giving the authority to expend to the selectmen and take ourselves out of that role? So yes, most of these are going to put more money in with the selectmen deciding when and what to buy.
Okay, thank you. My actual question I was
The
trying to
wrong
get
answer?
to, sorry.
It was a great answer, though.
It was great,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Is there a goal, do each of these expendable trusts have a goal in mind? Like this police cruiser, we're going to need $100,000, and once we get it in that fund, we're no longer, or is there, I guess, is there a goal, like for the dam, is there a goal?
There's no dollar amount that's set by the vote, but I assume that people would aim for the kind of numbers that are in the capital improvement plan.
Yeah, the goal is what is on the capital improvement plan. The goal with the $100,000 in the paving is to get to the point where we can reclaim some of those really bad roads. And unfortunately, it's one of those things where we're going to have to add money every year, even once we've reclaimed East Madison Road, because there are roads at the west end of town that are in dire need of repair. So yes, these will be year after year in addition to the year after year ones that we already have.
Thank you.
Mr.
Any
Moderator?
further
Mr.
questions?
Moderator.
Yes.
I will refer everybody to the website again to look at the capital improvement plan, because it does show years of replacement and how much we anticipate it will cost.
Any further comments or
Mr.
questions?
Moderator.
Yes.
Also, I hear what Mr. Moderator is saying about the selectmen become the agents to expend, but understand there is also, and can be, and hopefully the selectmen will utilize it, a public hearing process before we would expend money of a sizable nature. They could have that public hearing, your voices would still be heard, your opinions would still count, you could potentially sway them to not make the purchase in that particular year. There is still a voice. This does not cut off your voice completely. It just allows them to actually have the authority to actually expend the funds.
Mr. Attorney, is there any obligation for the selectmen to hold a hearing if they're the agents to expend? I didn't wake you, did I?
I'm not going to say there's not, but I also am not going to say there is, because I can't think of the statute right now about what
Yeah, they certainly,
with the representation, having been a selectman in the past, I listened to the body.
okay, I certainly have been examples where expenditures are made without a public hearing. Article 15, as written in the book. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 15, please raise your hand. Thank you. Opposed? Motion passes. Article 16, see if town votes to raise an appropriate sum of $60,000 to be placed in the previously established Highway Heavy Equipment Expendable Trust Fund. Moved and seconded by the
Moved by
selectmen.
Jim, seconded by Jake.
Thank you. Discussion with regard to Article 16.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to increase the $60,000 that's currently listed by $19,300 to a total of $79,300. And the reason I'm proposing
Just a second.
that...
Is there a second to that motion to increase? Okay, Ms. Schilling?
Let me explain why I know it's a significant increase. We just found out that there's a second round of New Hampshire grants coming available. It's called the Clean Diesel Grants. And it's very similar to Article 10, which we voted on, where the cost of, partial cost of the truck can be paid for with these Clean Diesel grants. Currently on the capital improvement plan, I think it's 2027, the goal is to replace a 2008 Peterbilt plow truck. And I'm looking to ask your approval to increase this fund so maybe we can speed that up pending receipt of this grant. The plan is to, I know the DPW's working on it. I spoke with Dave Swift the other day. And we're going to get three competitive bids. We're going to use a procurement process. We're going to look for best value. And then the plan is to buy a chassis, and they will take a fairly new stainless steel body off of the 2008 Peterbilt, transfer it onto the new chassis, whether it's a Western Star or Mack, depending on the bids we get.
Sorry, too much detail. We're
Okay.
talking about increasing the dollar amount
Yes.
that will be available.
So the $100,000 would be available in this fund so that we could proceed with the purchase of this truck pending a receipt of the grant. There is a change. I want to be straight up with everybody this year. It went from a 70-30, where 30% town cost share, to the value. We got a really good deal on the Mack truck that's currently on order, where the state is paying 70% of that. Under the 2006 grants that just rolled out, the town cost share would be 70%, or 75%, sorry. The state would only pay 25%. But still, it's 25% of approximately $225,000 to $250,000. So it's not as lucrative as it was last year when we got a really good deal on this new Mack truck. But I want to put that up for your consideration. Again, my goal is to avoid, a big spike, and warrant article when we have to buy this truck in 2027, 28. If we can try to buy it if we do get this grant money, it's a rolling application. It's open right now. The window to apply for these grants is open now. Again, there's no guarantee we're going to get it, but I just want to be prepared so we're not scrambling at the last minute if we do get the grant. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're considering an amendment to Article 16 to increase it by $19,300. Any further discussion on that amendment? Not on the original article, but just the amendment so far. Seeing none, we will vote. All in favor of increasing the amount in Article 16 by $19,300 to $79,300, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? The amendment passes. So now we're voting on Article 16 with the total amount being $79,300. Any further discussion before we vote? All those in favor of expending $79,300 to be placed in the Heavy Equipment Expendable Trust Fund? Yes. Keep your hands up. Please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed? Motion passes. So the amount placed in there is $79,300. Article 17, to see if town will vote to raise and appropriate a sum of $25,000 to be placed in the previously established Assessing Expendable Trust Fund. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Yep. Thank you. In addition to that annual amount that we pay for assessing that you saw in the operating budget, we set aside money each year for the big revaluations that are required by state law every 5 years, if I remember correctly. Comments or questions with regard to Article 17? Feel free to complain, but it won't do you any good. All those in favor of Article 17, please raise your hand. Thank you. All those opposed on moral principles? Thank you. Okay. Article 18, to see if town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed. I think I did, but if I didn't, you got me. Article passed. Article 18, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $100,000 to be placed in the previously established Silver Lake Dam Improvement Expendable Trust Fund. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Thank you. Discussion, we've spoke about this last year. We know it's going to be a lot more than $100,000, we think, but pursuing grants and all that stuff. Anybody want to discuss Article 18 or have questions or amendments?
I just want to clarify that this money is going towards a contract that we're already involved in to finish the engineering of what is wrong with the dam. Joe is looking into grants, and hopefully when it comes time to actually replace it, we'll have some grant funds.
So the selectmen are the agents to expend from this fund, I assume, and you're making decisions to expend that money to hire engineering firms and stuff like that?
They're already in the process, or they have already done the first part of it. This is the second aspect of it, but instead of expending it all in 1 year, we spread it out.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Quick, I want to speak to what Adam mentioned. We did work through Congressman Chris Pappas's office to submit a federal budget year 27 grant request. It's $1.25 million. I believe we have a very fair chance. We submitted a very competitive bid. Again, we don't know how it's going to make it through the federal budget process. It still has to go to Washington, and it goes through the House Ways and Means Committee, that type of thing. In the past, we've been very successful, and hopefully, again, we can't guarantee this, but we're trying to get this money to minimize the impact on the taxpayers.
Thank you. Other comments or questions with regard to Article 18? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 18, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed? Article passes. See if the town will vote to raise Article 19, to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $65,000 to be placed in the previously established Groundwater Remediation Expendable Trust Fund. Moved and seconded. Thank you. Excuse me. This has to do with PFAS found in all the water around here, in our around the fire station and the town offices and the like, and the library. Any comments or questions with regard to this? Again, we have talked about it in the past in some detail. Sloan Jarrell is sitting there hoping not to drink too much PFAS in her role as librarian. Seeing none, we'll vote on Article 19. All those in favor of Article 19, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes. Article 20, to see if town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $12,265 to be placed in the previously established Master Plan Expendable Trust Fund. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Thank you. Any comments or questions? The master plan process is in progress, and we have a speaker to this topic moving slowly towards the microphone.
Mr. Moderator.
Oh, well done. Very Norman Rockwell-like.
This is the balance of which will hopefully by the end of the year give us a online master plan, totally updated. reminding everyone to go to the website and do the update survey, and be here, if we get out of here today, be here 2 weeks from today, at 11 o'clock. We're having a community forum to get more input on the master plan.
It's Saturday, 2 weeks from today, 11 a.m.
The 28th,
Thank you.
11 o'clock.
Comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on Article 20. All those in favor of Article 20, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes. 21, see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $10,000 for the purpose of forest maintenance. The entire amount to come from previously established forest maintenance account and no amount to be raised from taxation. Moved and seconded by the selectmen. Thank you. Discussion on Article 21. Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 21, please raise your hand. Thank you. Opposed? Thank you. Article 22, see if town will vote, raise and appropriate the sum of up to $5,000 for the purpose of land acquisition and conservation purposes, with said funds to come from the Capital Reserve Fund for land acquisition and conservation purposes. Why does that not sound right to me? I'm sorry, are we putting money into the fund?
If this passes, the town is authorizing to spend up to $5,000 this year. We do it every year.
From that Capital
Yes.
Reserve Fund?
Correct.
My apologies. Moved and seconded by the selectmen? Thank you. Discussion with regard to Article 22. Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor of Article 22? Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes. Article 23, shall the town modify the optional veterans tax credit for service-connected total disability in accordance with RSA 7235 from its current tax credit of $2,000 per year to $2,500? Moved and seconded? Thank you. Any discussion with regard to this increase in the tax credit available to veterans?
So this increase is to offset the fact that I believe you can no longer stack the old credits. So this is going to allow people to continue to get the same amount of credit they were getting before and not have to apply for two because you can't stack them.
Gotcha. Thank you. That's state law change. Any further comment or discussion with regard to Article 23?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, I just want to do a little more clarification. There used to be two tax credits, one for up to $2,000 for a 100% disabled veteran, and then the other, if you're a veteran, you got a $500 tax credit. What this does is it removes the twofold piece. Those who are veterans will still get the $500, but those who are fully disabled will get $2,500 instead of $2,000 and $500. So it, as Adam alluded to, it takes away the stacking of it, but it increases it so that the benefit is the same.
Thank you. No further discussion. We'll vote on Article 23. All those in favor of Article 23? Thank you. All opposed? Passes. We've resolved Article 24. Article 25, by petition, see if the town will vote to ask the New Hampshire General Court to establish an independent redistricting commission to ensure fair and transparent voting districts that represent all voters equally and without favor to any political party. Independent redistricting commission would support fair representation in election outcomes, give every voter an equal voice, and provide transparency that strengthens public trust by drawing districts that keep communities of interest together. Be further resolved that the Select Board shall send the results of this vote to the Governor and all members of the General Court representing Madison within 30 days. Motion by perhaps the person who was the lead petitioner. Do I have such a motion? Mr. Veyu, you're the lead petitioner. Would you like to make the motion?
I'd like the motion to speak.
And you will, and would your wife like to second that motion? That'd be fine. Good. So we've got that. I have to make a quick comment. One is that, the primary comment, is that our state legislature, that's the General Court, passed a change to a law that says that when a petitioned article like this one is put before the town, the petitioner, the lead petitioner, is allowed to speak for up to 10 minutes by state law, overruling my rules and your rules with regard to a 2-minute limit. I am incensed that our state legislature would have the nerve to order that. Fortunately, the lead petitioner, Mr. Vayu, is a kind and thoughtful person and will not talk for 10 minutes. But I will now allow him to speak, but I want you to know this is the kind of thing that you and I are dealing with. Mr. Vayu.
Yes, George, you seem to have packaged it a little bit differently when you spoke with me, but I'll try and stay under 10 minutes.
Is that a threat, Mr. Vayu?
I'll try.
Okay.
Every 10 years, the New Hampshire House and Senate have the responsibility of drawing up new voting districts based on the most recent census data. A special committee is appointed that reflects the percentage of the legislators that each party elected. The process is supposed to be fair, nonpartisan, and transparent to the public. Unfortunately, this is not always the case, and politicians from both sides of the aisle manipulate or gerrymander the district boundaries to gain political advantage. The party in power holds the majority and create maps that favor them. By contrast, an independent redistrict commission would be composed of equal number of Republicans, Democrats, and undecided voters. It would remove the map drawing power from the politicians. Their commission would seek to keep communities intact that have shared school districts, physical boundaries, service agreements, and the like, and apply clear and consistent standards. This would strengthen public trust in the elections and ensure election outcomes reflect the will of the voters rather than partisan political interests. This warrant article would ask the Madison Board of Selectmen to transmit a written notice reflecting the vote of the Madison legislative body to the governor and all members of the general court within 30 days. Please vote yes for petition warrant article number 25. Remember, gerrymandering is the practice of politicians picking their voters rather than allowing voters to select their politicians.
Thank you, and thank you for your efficiency in delivering that message. Any comments or questions? Yes.
Just wanted to clarify that this removes the elected politicians from redistricting. It just puts it into an independent commission to prevent gerrymandering by those who benefit from the gerrymandering. Okay, thank you.
Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll vote. Mr. Risch. I'm sorry, that probably wasn't the nicest thing that I said about your basketball playing skills, but it was accurate, wasn't
That's
it?
all right. We'll take you in the King Pine Pioneer Race one day.
Okay. No, I couldn't even begin to compete.
Mike, thank you for bringing this to the floor. I just want to speak in favor of this as I'm a veteran. I'm born and raised here in Madison, and I really think hard and deeply about this stuff. We look around this room, and we've resolved some big issues talking person to person, and I don't see any party identification on anybody's shoulder, right? We're working as a community. This is how democracy is supposed to work. If you look down at Congress right now, you've got two parties who are gridlocked, and the reason that's happening is because of partisan gerrymandering, where either party controls the funding for the elections and the people that are going to get primaried if they don't toe the line. So if we can do, we need to start it here locally. It's not a solution that's going to happen in Washington. It has to happen at the states. States control elections. To fix this problem, to get our country back online and our democracy moving again, we need to the solution has to come locally, so please support this motion, or this warrant article.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll vote on Article 25. All those in favor of Article 25, please raise your hand. Thank you. All opposed? Thank you. Clearly, the body votes in favor of Article 25. Articles 26, you're getting very close. Articles 26 through 32 are town contributions to nonprofit organizations, and we have generally addressed those as a group for a total amount of money equaling
$36,140.
$36,140. And I'm going to ask if someone would like to put a motion on the floor, the selectman perhaps, to approve $36,140 for Articles 26 through 32 in their entirety.
I will motion that we put 26 through 32 on the floor at once.
And
seconded by all three of them.
everybody else agrees to second it. Thank you. So it's on the floor as a group. If you want to take one of them off, if you want to speak toward one particular article and or challenge one particular article, feel free, but otherwise we will consider the entire amount of $36,140. Is there any discussion, question, amendment associated with $36,140?
Mr. Moderator, if
Yes,
I
sir.
could briefly speak on this. As the Budget Committee member, I actually review these requests, and I vet them to see, how many Madison residents are benefiting by these programs. I consider these programs to be critical to our town. It's programs like low-income fuel assistance, Meals on Wheels, food insecurity, and addressing homelessness in our communities. I'm very familiar with all of these organizations. Last year, the contribution was $32,000. This year, we're looking at a $4,140 increase, bringing the total, as Chairman Price said, to $36,140. And the reason it has gone up is because the demand for services has gone up. I know that, I run the, my wife and I run the Madison Food Pantry. We've seen a 2 to 3 times increase in the number of clients coming in for services. We have homeless people here in Madison living in cars and tents that are coming in for services. So all of these programs here are helping to address these issues within Madison. So I fully support the $36,140 for these charitable organizations. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Dame, for your efforts associated with the food pantry. I think we all recognize and perhaps could applaud the effort. Yes, sir.
Ted Slater, Pine Hill Road. Just a quick question. I have nothing against the town of Ossipee, but I was just wondering why we're supporting their fund. I'm sure there's got to be one here in Madison.
It's a badly named fund, but
The
perhaps
the
you
Ossipee
could-
Children's,
Thank
the Ossipee Children's Fund has often funded some of our kids to go to summer camp. So it's not just the name they support surrounding towns. So they've put into Madison last year more than they're asking for this year. Yep.
Any other questions or comments, amendments associated with this? If not, then we will vote on Articles 26 through 32 for a total of $36,140. Please raise your hand if you're in favor. Thank you. All opposed? Motion passes. Is there any other business to come before here that you can't bear to put off? Yes, sir.
You had a motion to combine that was seconded.
No, I had the motion. We put them all on at once, and I realize that it probably violates something. I don't care. We've done it for 39 years, and we're going to do it for one more year. But thank you for keeping an eye. You're absolutely right.
I think he's asking if we voted.
Yeah, we didn't vote to put them all together. We simply put them all together.
Okay.
I put them all together. I used my plenary authority to do that. And thank you. He's absolutely correct. I shouldn't do that. But I did it anyway. All of those in favor of adjourning this meeting, please just yell aye. Aye. Thank you very much. Take the rest of the year off.